long. Brent Sperry with you for the next 4 hours. Actually, I'm going to be with you. Here's the thing, Sammy. I'm going to be with you for an hour. Sammy's been nice enough for the last few weeks, ever since Jim just went MIA and pulled like a in the heat of the night, Indianapolis Colts moving to like Baltimore moving to Indy or whatever happened like 4 years ago. No, like there's all these like famous examples. I think the most famous example of a franchise leaving in the heat of the night, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Baltimore Colts got up and just went to Indianapolis. Like before social media, trucks they literally moved the team, and then we're like, after they moved, like we left.
Yeah, because what was the Mayweather trucks or Mayflower trucks?
Yeah, they were like outside the
facility. Like some famous,
yeah. So anyway, Jim just bailed on us. Now I joke, only kind of, but you've been kind enough to fill in for basically an hour each day since Jim's been out. But tonight we have a Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. So I'm going to stick around until 7 p.m.
Ooh.
And
do you need me another hour? I can save your voice.
Whoa. My voice is. I mean, what are you doing today? What's your day like?
I have nothing going on today. My buddy wants to have a drink later.
It's gorgeous outside.
Yeah, I'm fine. We're sitting here talking sports. I can't complain.
We are doing that. We'll figure it out on the fly. But John Schaefer, Sammy Long, with you for the next 4 hours. Today we do have. Are we giving away Aztec tickets today, Brent? We'll see if we have Aztec tickets for next week or not. We also have San Diego Seals tickets we need to give away. John Wilner, Bay Area News Group. If you missed him yesterday, you'll hear that coming up at 3 p.m. You know what's funny? I ripped Jim to start the show. Jim sent what we're about to play to me earlier today that I didn't even see. And he's like, congratulations on your 4-hour show. So, okay, Brent, we do have tickets. All right, we have Aztec tickets. We'll give those away at some point in the 3 or 4 o'clock hour. And again, Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. Let's hear this and then react. Jim sent this to me at like 7 a.m. He's like, I'm on my flight's delayed 4 hours in Chicago.
Wait, did he get to San Fran, by the way?
Let me text.
let's get a Jim Russell update.
Here's the thing. This morning, he was supposedly on a 7 a.m. Eastern flight from Philadelphia to Chicago to San Francisco.
I'm sure he had knowing Jim Russell, you guys know him better than anyone, but I'm sure he had a joyous ride to the airport. No complaining whatsoever at all. Getting up that early.
He doesn't wake up. Dude, there were times where like the Padres would extend Manny Machado, and I knew about it for 5 hours before he like got on social media because it would come out at 6 a.m. Pacific, and he'd wake up at like 11 in the morning.
Yeah, if you don't like getting up early, it really sucks if you're coming from the east and then you're coming out here because you have to. You pretty much have to do the morning twice.
What I like about having Jim in the East is I can now text him at 7 in the morning, and he's like quasi up.
Yeah,
because it's 10 a.m.
He's having his coffee at 10 a.m.
Yeah, I getting ready for 8 a.m. and he's like already awake. So anyway, he's traveling across the country, and during his 4-hour delay in Chicago, he sends me this. It's from a WFAN host in New York, as iconic of a sports talk radio station as there's ever been, arguably. WFAN in New York. Now, we've talked about this exact point over the offseason. Listen to what the host has to say about what the Yankees should trade for with spring training about to begin.
Brian Cashman has to make a major splash. And the guy that I think the Yankees should trade for is Fernando Tatis Jr. I would trade Volpe. I would trade Heel. I would trade Dominguez and George Lombard Jr. Fernando Tatis is one of the most electric players in the sport. He could be your shortstop. I know he's found a home in right field. He could play right field for the Yankees. Now, hear me out. I like the idea of Judge at times moving to first base. I like the idea of Judge at times DHing. He's not getting any younger. And Judge has gotten hurt more times than you would like. And he's their most prized possession. They're nothing without him. So to keep him healthy, you DH him a little bit more. And Tatis, who's a terrific fielder, especially in the outfield, you could put him in right field. So if I'm Brian Cashman, I'm the Yankees, I would trade for Fernando Tatis Jr.
Here's always my issue with this line of thinking, Sammy. And listen, the Padres in the state they're in with exploring a sale and with their financials, of course, names over the course of time come up. Of course, names come up. It's not to say names can't come up. We do the same thing here in San Diego. But this is a classic example of like what I want without thinking about the other person. Like being in a relationship and like, I want to have my car in the garage And I want to be able to wake up when I want to wake up. And I want you to get me Starbucks. So, well, like, what's in it for me? Like, it's a two-way street. So this host, whatever the guy's name is, I have no idea, says that he wants the Yankees to trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. Yeah, no crap.
Maybe they'll get Ohtani too. Maybe they'll throw him in as well.
I'd like for the Padres to trade for Shohei Ohtani and move, Ethan Salas in that deal. So he wants to trade Anthony Volpe for Fernando Tatis Jr., who he says could play a little bit of right field for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very New York. Obviously, every other city's big stars should come to New York because every New Yorker thinks that why wouldn't you want to be in New York? Yeah, the package that he laid out there, like, I love how his first thing was like, we're gonna give up Anthony Volpe. I mean, Anthony, like that is some big trade. Look, I mean, if you were even entertaining this, not that you should entertain trading Fernando Tatis, but let's just say you get to a point where we've talked about ad nauseum, the prospect system or farm system is not what it used to be. Maybe you need to replenish. Maybe this grouping is has seen the best of what it can be, and the only way to do that is by trading Fernando Tatis. Complete hypothetical scenario. If the Padres are going to do that, they're going to open up Fernando Tatis on an open market and see who has the best offer. This is not just we're just deciding to trade with New York because it's New York. And they would want that. Obviously, did you say Tatis has a no trade?
He's got a full no trade. I mean, that's kind of part of the story too. I mean, again, can that change? Yeah, it can, because players can, things come to
it, right?
But you're like, I'm watching on social media yesterday. Maybe you saw this. It might have been on my timeline on Twitter, and it was certainly on Instagram. They're doing this like Camp 44 with Joe Musgrove, the players before.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Like Toddy's like running around in his bathing suit. He's having the time of his life. Like, what's the famous thing we talked about, Brent? Having the time of his life? Vance Joseph.
Oh, he's having the time of his life.
Honestly, that is who Tatis is. Imagine being 27 years old and being Fernando Tatis Jr.
Biggest star in San Diego.
The world is your oyster. You live in San Diego. Now, he's had some highs and lows. There's been some things. But, I mean, you're basically beloved in San Diego, even with the adversity and the highs and lows. And all of a sudden, he's going to demand a trade, is my point. He's going to waive his no trade.
I also think if the thinking is this of, like, from a New York perspective, New York sees, everyone knows New Yorkers. I'm not taking a shot at New Yorkers, but everyone thinks that it's, it stops and starts in New York.
The world revolves around New York.
Around Manhattan. That's about it. And everyone else is trying to get to Manhattan.
Right.
For the Padres to, quote, be a, quote, small market team, they're certainly in the headlines a lot. And maybe a lot of that is because they're the number one rival. I guess you could debate that to the Dodgers, but certainly the last 5 or 6 years, it feels like that rivalry has been the best in baseball. You play in a division with the Giants. Diamondbacks have made a little bit of noise recently. So to just think that Tatis is going to get on his way out to New York, I don't see that at all. And it is such a New York thing to just be throwing out trade proposals like they know what's going to happen.
Yeah. What do you got, Brian?
I'm just laughing because you mentioned Tatis yesterday, frolicking on the beach. Yeah. It's 18 degrees today in New York City.
It's 18. So. Tatis is spending his offseason. If you watch his Instagram, he's scuba diving every day. He's hiking. He's not going to the top of One World Trade for like the the views. Like he wants to be here, and there's more that goes into that. By the way, I don't know if anyone saw Fernando Tatis Jr. some of the video of him on the beach yesterday.
I did.
This is what it's come to. My wife, Kristen, is like, "Hey, did you see the Padres on the beach?" I'm like, "Let me guess, Tatis." She's like, "Yeah, Tatis." I'm like, what? I'm like, it's Fernando Tatis Jr. Like this guy is having the time of his life.
Have you seen every comment on that post, by the way?
No. Are they all about Tatis?
Oh yeah, everyone's like Tatis love eyes. That's every single one of them. Every single one.
I did think it was kind of funny that they were like playing horseshoes with like 50-pound kettlebells.
I mean, they're all having a great time. But here's the thing. So, by the way, the host that said that, it was like, hey, they should trade for Tatis. Like, it wasn't the most ridiculous thing where he was yelling and screaming. But when you headline your trade package for Fernando Tatis Jr. with Anthony Volpe, you had a 660 OPS last year, OPS plus of 83. That means he was 17% worse than the average major league hitter. This is the piece that you're going to move in an effort to acquire Fernando Tatis Jr. It's just like, stop. The Padres have the worst farm system in baseball. It's not me saying that. It's now Kylie McDaniel today. But guess what? They're not going to go to ESPN.com and see that and be like, we got to get our system up to 15th. Let's move Tatis.
Well,
Let's replenish.
Well, to that end, if you were going to entertain trading Tatis, wouldn't you want to take, i.e. Juan Soto, what they did the Padres, take the whole farm system? You want to take, especially a team, if you were to look like the Yankees, who, the Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, these big market teams are able to have stacked farm systems because they're able to go out and recruit and sign these guys. You would want to take the entire farm system as something where then you could kind of start fresh, get the city excited about something. But to your point, I don't think people are throwing parades for Anthony Volpe coming to the Padres. I don't see that happening.
I mean, he mentioned like Jason Dominguez, and again, now we're kind of getting in the weeds. It's not like this is like imminent. We're not sitting here waiting for Fernando Tatis Jr. to be moved. And Dominguez is a huge prospect, and he's only 22. But in his career, he's done nothing. So Fernando Tatis Jr. is a proven entity. Now, could I argue, and have I argued, you need more out of Tatis at the plate? Yeah, I'm happy to make that point. But that doesn't mean I would just go sell him away for a collection of players because Fernando Tatis Jr. isn't hitting today like he did 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, you're changing the direction of your franchise trading Fernando Tatis
and
Jr.
if you were to do that, wouldn't you feel like you were selling him at a low point? I mean, it's not
a high point.
It's right? It's not a high point from 3 years ago where you're like, this guy was the
top 3 in the sport,
where he would take everything. I mean, this feels like you would be selling him for pennies on the dollar. And to your point, I mean, I thought the point of the Jackson Merrill contract, which is very team friendly, Merrill and Tatis to grow together. And we talked about CJ Abrams yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought the thing was to add more young talent around the roster. And we all know that Bogart's contract has not lived up to snuff, and Machado's getting up there in age a little bit, and his contract's not going anywhere. Trading Fernando Tatis certainly would be a brash decision.
Here's the thing when it comes to Tatis, and I think most Padres fans agree with this, and I think the Padres organization feels this way. The adage, burn the ships, where it's like, this is who we have, and we're either going to win or lose, sink or swim with this group. It's like, last 2 years, the Dodgers get post-trade deadline. It's like, you're going to have to overcome injuries. You're not going to be saved by payroll. You're not going to go out and spend money. You just got to go earn it the last 2 months of the season. The way I look at Tatis heading into his age 27 season is like, you just got to go do it. We're not going to go save you. We're not going to trade you away. No, he's too good of a player. He's too important. He's too beloved, in my opinion. He's too important for everything. There's no world where he's being traded. I mean, is there a world? Of course, because it's professional sports, but it's not just, the Yankees want it. They need to make a splash. So now you got to go trade Fernando Tatis Jr. That's not the situation the Padres are in, like the Soto situation, where he had 1 year left on his deal. You had to make a decision. Fernando Tatis Jr. is under contract for the next 9 years, I think. Something like that. You have to make no decision. So you're going to hold on to him and see if you can get the best out of him in 2026. We want your reaction to that. 877-767-4760. Is there any world in which you would trade Fernando Tatis Jr.? 877-767-4760 or text us 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll get into the Aztecs' big win last night over Colorado State as well. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away. We'll hear from Brian Dutcher post-game as well coming up. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long. We're just kind of beating around this idea that was, put out on WFAM. Which again, it's the easiest thing in the world to do, and I honestly I try not to do it. Like, for example, we were talking about, who did you say we were talking about earlier in the week?
CJ Abrams.
Thank you. But we don't sit here. Like, how many times have you heard me say, like, you got to trade for CJ Abrams, here's the package, get it done. I just throw out the idea that, hey, listen, if Abrams is on the market, do the Padres have enough? Here's how it fits or it doesn't fit. Like New York, it's like the world revolves so much around it, or at least you think it does when you're in it, that the way this was phrased was almost like, it's almost like Tatis's ode to the New York Yankees, because the Yankees haven't made a splash this offseason.
He's making the deal. He's making the deal for him on the radio.
It's like, I have to do it because Brian Cashman has to make a splash. Well, what do you mean he has to make a splash? I mean, what Brian Cashman needs to do is put the Yankees in a position to win, just like AJ Preller needs to do the same thing with the San Diego Padres. But like, when you say it through the lens of, well, the Yankees need to make a splash to go trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. Well, what about the San Diego Padres? Like, where are the Padres in this equation? And the Padres right now, Sammy, have to win now. Like this, like nobody's going to be content with, and I'm theoretically speaking, you traded away Tatis, terrible PR, but you get a package of players back that's going to help you both now and in the long term. Is anyone going to be content to be like, hey, listen, we went 79 and 83 this year, but man, that package, what they're doing in San Antonio and El
fantastic.
Paso, I don't think Padres fans are at that point right now. I think the expectations have been raised that you got to win at the major league level.
Well, and I think it'd be different if the Padres, let's say, had won one World Series, and then it's like, you know what? Yep. Keep running this core collection group of guys back. Maybe it's time for a little bit of a reset while we still have a lot of value. To that point, the Padres have gotten so close multiple times. The Phillies, obviously, but the year they beat the Dodgers, and then having the Dodgers on the ropes, they heading into that game 4, I believe the Padres flipped to the World Series favorites.
They were the World Series favorite heading into game 4. That is 100% accurate.
Right. So
betting favorite.
They would have been a favorite against the Mets, and then probably the Yankees. And who knows what would have happened, but neither of those teams played great in either of those series against the Dodgers. Yep. So the Padres have been so close to getting over the hump. And to that end, I think that's a hard sell to the fans. And whatever you want to say about maybe resetting prospects is one of the best things for the organization, except the Padres has to put butts in seats. And I'm not saying it is the best thing for the organization. I would keep Fernando Tatis Jr., but this collection of, right, Machado and Bogarts aren't going anywhere. So you trade Tatis, and now you're stuck with some aging contracts, bad contracts, with the hopes that a farm system comes up in a couple of years and becomes star for you. I don't see that PR going well. And then I think the excitement around the duo of Tatis and Merrill kind of goes a little bit away because you took one of those core pieces out.
Yeah, there's a difference between doing something that's smart and doing something that is like fun. Like, I'll give you an example. Do you have a credit card personally?
Yeah.
Like, it's not smart to run up credit card debt, but sometimes it's enjoyable. Like you got a credit card, you run up debt.
Right, spending money you don't have.
Right. What do you enjoy more? Paying off debt or buying something? By and large, people would prefer to buy something than pay off debt. What the Padres could do, that they've got a lot of debt in this analogy, and I think they have debt in real life. But here's the thing: is that you already have debt. Keep using the credit card. Are you really going to now, at this point in the franchise's history, we're going to sell off Tatis to go make our farm system whole and get out from underneath
and
that
hope you
deal?
Get another Tatis.
That's where you are. You're going to get out from underneath that deal because you're paying him a lot of money. You're going to get a lot of resources in terms of prospect capital back because it's smart. Forget about smart for a moment. Like you're in it right now, coming off back-to-back 90-win seasons. Your payrolls are out of whack. Like your dollars are out of whack. Your system is terrible, but you still are in position where you can win like 90 games. So, pay off debt later. Like, worry about your credit card bills later is how I see them. Like, they're right now in this window where it's not about doing things that are fiscally responsible and rebuilding their farm system. It's about squeezing everything possible out of the major league system right now. Again, I don't know if that's responsible or not, but I just think at this point they're committed to doing that.
Well, it's like the Lakers with LeBron. If the Lakers were looking out for the best direction of the franchise in the future,
great point.
They would trade LeBron and go, hey, let's get DeAndre Hunter, some guys to build around Luka.
It's like you can't.
So the PR hit of, hey, we just traded LeBron James. the diehard Laker fans might go, hey, this is the best thing for the organization. But overall, you're basically throwing a season away. Even though I don't think the Lakers are favorites, you're for real throwing in a season. And to your point, let's say you trade Tatis and get a collection of prospects and your farm system stacked. One of two things is going to happen. You're either hoping that all these guys hit and become superstars in it, or a couple years from now, you end up trading all those prospects that you got back in the Tatis deal for a player like Fernando Tatis. So you don't just let these guys walk out the door because your farm system is depleted. It feels like, yeah, maybe we're a little too, obviously in New York, they're playing fairyland with these deals and doing these whole, prospects of trading. But yeah, I think it would be a disaster to trade Fernando Tatis.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, the beauty of AJ Preller is that you don't really know what's on the other side. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Preller did something of significance between now and even the start of spring training. Like, that would not be overly surprising. I think the unexpected is what makes AJ Preller and the Padres so fascinating, truthfully, because it's almost like you expect the unexpected. But I don't expect this. Like, there's a difference between expecting the unexpected and then something to happen that goes even beyond that. And that's how I see Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, I'm just looking at how the organization is operating right now. Let me try to find. They signed some journeyman to a minor league deal today, whoever that was. But they're not operating like a team that is just moments away from changing its direction by getting rid of Fernando Tatis Jr. Like, that to me, especially you're exploring a sale. Does your next owner not want Fernando Tatis Jr.? Because that's a pretty decisive move to
make.
Well,
the evaluation of the franchise, by the way, if you're one of the owners now.
Yeah, don't you want him?
Yeah, I think you'd want that as a selling piece, is that you have Merrill and Tatis as potential cornerstones of your franchise. Trading Tatis for a farm system for owners who may not know even what entails in a farm system doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not exactly like, hey, yeah, but trust me, we traded away Tatis. Why? Well, look at our AA roster. Okay. Yeah, it's irrelevant. All right, we'll discuss over the course of the afternoon. Plus, we're going to hear from Brian Dutcher on the other side. If you missed John Wilner from the Bay Area News Group on the Pac-12 that San Diego State is heading to later this year, he's got some updated information for us on that coming up at 3 p.m. But we'll hear from Brian Dutcher coming up next. Aztecs a big win over Colorado State. You'll hear from Brian Dutcher on the other side. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. San Diego State defeated Colorado State last night 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage will begin at 9 a.m. John will have the tip after 10 a.m. The Patriots held their first practice today leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to quarterback Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant on Wednesday's injury report after landing on his right shoulder while being tackled in the AFC Championship game. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
San Diego Sports 760. Aztecs back on the road Saturday morning in Logan, Utah, taking on Utah State. Pregame coverage. Listen to this, 9 a.m. That's early. I've got the tip for you after 10, just after 10 a.m. It's an 11 a.m. local start in Utah, 10 a.m. Pacific start. And you can listen again right here on your home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Let's go there right now. The Aztecs are really playing good basketball. They're 9-1 in the Mountain West. They beat Colorado State last night convincingly. I mean, I was very worried. And it turned out I didn't need to be worried because they won 73-50. They're 9-1 in the league. I mean, honestly, I'll cry over spilled milk the rest of the year. They should be 10-0, whatever. They're 9-1. And now they're going to Utah State to take on the Aggies, who are 8-2 in the league. The only team really with better metrics, honestly, than San Diego State. But nice to see the Aztecs playing the way they are right now. Again, with that, they didn't have LZ Harrington. We found out after the show. He was out with a leg injury, and Magoon Guath has missed 3 consecutive games. But the team is seemingly playing some of its best basketball right now.
Well, I think some of the early on in the season, the frustrations were the kind of supporting cast guys who you weren't expecting were going to be the stars, your BJ Davises and guys like that. We're kind of getting it done. And maybe the big three in Magoon and Miles and Reese were struggling early. Now, Magoon's obviously been out, but Reese Dixon Waters and Miles Burr's been playing, I'd say, their best stretch of basketball the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
But you're still having that bench support. I believe the Aztecs are the second best scoring bench team in the country behind Tarleton State. And like Barrow Compton 15 last night. Taj been playing, I think, really under the radar. Good ball recently. Was good at UNLV. Had 9 points last night. And just the front court overall. I think if you would have told, certainly me, after the Players Era tournament, Magoon Guath's going to be out, I think you would have been concerned about are the Aztecs going to get bullied inside. And Miles Heide, Tay Simmons, and Farrell Compton, I think have really elevated their game recently and been not only just good defensively, but better offensive threats than early on in the year. And we know that the guard spot and wing spots for the Aztecs can compete with just about anybody in the country. So that's why I think they're just playing so much better ball recently in the Mountain West.
It was a cool night last night. Lamont Butler was in the building, right? He was courtside directly across from the Aztec bench, and you knew he'd get a great ovation. I mean, they showed him at the under 12 media timeout of the first half, and you could tell how heartfelt it was for Lamont. I mean, he was really taken aback by it. I actually saw him earlier today at the Jam because he's over there watching practice this afternoon, and he is such a remarkable figure in San Diego sports history.
Like, where does he stack?
Yeah, I mean, right. It's an interesting conversation because we've talked about like moments in San Diego sports history, and there've been some obviously iconic ones. But yeah, I mean, where do you put it in terms of just like sheer like one moment in time? It's right up there, and it's not just recency bias because I mean he's literally got the only game-winning shot in Final Four history at the buzzer. He's got the only shot in the history of the Final Four where his team was trailing, and then his team won the game at the buzzer.
Well, in
the Final Four,
and that like remembering that season, John, I remember I was just still in high school, and I went up to Fresno State to engineer the game because we didn't have an engineer.
Oh, that was that year you went up there?
Yes, and they won 45-43, and I remember people hitting the text line, "This team is going nowhere. This team is a disaster." Fresno State, how could you barely beat this team? And then to go all the way there, the championship game. Obviously, UConn was a bit of a buzzsaw, but the Aztecs acquitted themselves nicely in that game. It was cool, though, overall, seeing Lamont Butler last night. Like, he deserves every bit of praise that he got, and it is cool. Like, I don't know where that shot would stack up among all the Padres, Chargers best moments over the years, and now SCFC.
It's there. I mean, it's certainly right there. And I would just say this: I've made this point a lot, and it doesn't even need to be made anymore because I was there last night and 12,000 people on their feet giving him a rousing standing ovation. Like, if anyone still is like upset because Lamont Butler spent his final year at Kentucky.
Oh no.
I think you need to change your perspective and be like, he spent 4 years at San Diego State, which is becoming so increasingly rare. He has a degree from San Diego State. He comes back to San Diego. It truly is his home. I mean, he's from an hour from here in Riverside. And he's a terrific guy. I mean, I think people recognize that if you've seen him, if you've watched him, if you've heard him. But he's as good of a person as he is a player. And it was just really cool to see him last night in San Diego. This was Brian Dutcher postgame. We'll hear from Dutch live at 6 p.m., the Brian Dutcher Show. This was Dutch postgame on the win and getting ready for Utah State.
Yeah, defense was great. But with that being said, we shot 54% for the game and 46% from three.
Yeah.
So, and took good care of the ball. 12 turnovers. I wanted 10 or under. We had 12. We forced 17. So statistically, we did a really good job. Out rebounded him. And so proud of our effort. And this is a tough stretch for us, John. Yep. This is the stretch of 3 out of 4 games on the road. You know you got to get the home game. There's extra pressure to win it because you know you're going to Utah State next. So this is a tough stretch for us. So we've answered the call thus far. Obviously, I would have liked to get that Grand Canyon game. It didn't happen. We battled back and got UNLV, came home and played well, and now we got to go to Utah State and play 10 a.m. San Diego time game. So
turnaround.
It's not easy. So we'll do what we have to do tomorrow without taxing their legs and get ready for a really good Utah State team on their home floor.
You know, it's so funny. So that worked out perfectly. So that was Brian Dutcher with me post-game. But Dutch also speaks with the media, like the print media upstairs. And I was watching what he had to say this morning because it's on YouTube, at like the Aztecs YouTube page. And I forgot to put the link in. So Brent just I put Brian Dutcher post-game sound, 0 seconds to 57 seconds. And that worked.
Yeah, that was post-game.
That's insane because
I thought you literally meant post-game, not the post-game presser.
That is so funny. Anyway, no, it's perfect. He said the same thing with the print media, which is, going to Utah State, that's hard, dude. I mean, you're at elevation, you're playing in the morning. Their crowd is ridiculous. Their student section wears like surgical gloves to make more noise when they clap. I mean, the building's going to be insane, obviously. You're going to be an underdog. But,
which is a nice thing.
Yeah, the Aztecs are in every game, though. It's like, just put yourself in the game. Be in the game with 4 minutes to play and see if you can pull it out.
Well, and that's what made last night so concerning. I know we disagreed on whether it was a trap game, but it was a game in the middle of a stretch of Grand Canyon last week, UNLV, the big matchup Saturday against Utah State. You sat there and like, Aztecs 8.5-point favorites. Can they close this one out? Not only win, but win convincingly. And then winning by 23 was obviously big for the metrics. But yeah, Saturday, we talked about this a week ago. You had a few of these road matchups. So Nevada, you passed the test. Grand Canyon, it sucks that it didn't go your way. Feels like it should have with that call at the end. But at the end of the day, it didn't go the Aztecs' way. You get a big road win in UNLV, and then you got Utah State, New Mexico. So you want to ease some of this pressure of the games at home. Like, obviously, you feel like them playing at Viejas, they're going to be a favorite no matter who they play.
Yep.
But you also want to account for the fact that there might be a slip up here in a couple of weeks at Viejas on some Tuesday night. I mean,
it's hard to win every game you play,
especially in a conference where every team knows each other so well. Yeah. So if you can pick off a Utah State, if you could pick off a New Mexico here in the next couple of weeks, like, you're sitting there going, okay, now the Aztecs have some wiggle room. And then if it comes to the Aztecs home floor to close out for a potential bid in the NCAA tournament, you feel good about that versus having to go on the road and pick up some of these tough Mountain West Conference road wins.
It's funny you say that. So the difference between last year's Aztecs team and this year's Aztecs team, like holistically, like 30,000 feet, is it simply, this is what people would say that follow the sport. Well, San Diego State last year, from like a tournament perspective, well, they beat Houston and Creighton. Houston, the non-conference Houston win was one of the best wins in America. Houston would later play for a national championship. They lost one game between the San Diego State game and the national championship, I believe. 1 or 2 games between San Diego State and the national championship game. Then they easily could have won that game. So they held that with them all year. But I would argue that the way the Aztecs are playing now is better than they were playing last year in the league.
Well, because if you take that away, last year they had a good week. Like they had a great week beating Creighton and Houston, and we're not taking that away from them. That's unbelievable.
Right.
But I feel like people maybe got a little too down on, yes, was it disheartening seeing them get dismantled by Michigan and Baylor? Of course, you don't want to see that. And those are the teams that you're going to have to beat if the Aztecs want to get to where they want to get to. But there also were a lot of factors going into that. I mean, Magoon-Guath, those are two brutal front courts to be playing when you're still coming back off injury. A lot of new guys to the program. Those are not teams that you want to necessarily be figuring out your rotations against. I feel like this team, you're seeing more of the team that we thought they were going to be now against Mountain West competition. And they could be a little underrated at this point. Whereas last year, maybe they were a little overrated because of how successful they were early and kind of fading down the stretch in Mountain West Conference play.
I think it's a good way to put it. I really do. Now, the issue last year they didn't have a lot of wiggle room in the end. They were the second to last team in. They played in Dayton. So it's not like they were comfortably in. This year is going to be the same thing in terms of they're not going to be comfortably in. There's going to be a lot of sweating it out. You don't have to be perfect, but you're going to have to be very good down the stretch. All right, more on the Aztecs over the course of the afternoon. We have Aztec tickets for Tuesday night against Wyoming to give away. On the other side, we mentioned this earlier, but where does the Padres farm system rank in baseball? Is it in the top 30? There's 30 teams in the sport. So the Padres make the top 30 in terms of farm systems in Major League Baseball. We have the latest from ESPN on the other side. You'll hear from John Wilner on the future of the Pac-12, including San Diego State at 3 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. All right, John Schaefer, Sammy Long. Sammy's going to stick around until 4 p.m. today. How about that?
We got approval, guys.
Got approval. Extra hour of Sammy with us here on San Diego Sports 760. So I tweeted something out earlier. By the way, I want to send this to Jim, although he's in the Bay Area now, so it doesn't hit home as hard. I just saw a tweet from like the National Weather Service. I follow the San Diego National Weather Service.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But
well, it's nice to know.
It's nice to know, like, oh, we're expecting high tides. I mean, what do I care? Honestly, what is? You ever think about that? Like, what can I do about it? I guess you can be prepared with the weather. But what is it? What are you really going to do? If it's raining a lot, what am I supposed to do? Not going to work?
One thing I will say in San Diego though is oddly it can be like a 85-degree day or 82-degree day, and then weirdly, like an hour later, it can get chilly. So
okay, relax, dude. I mean, that can happen anywhere in the world.
So it's nice to know, though, if it's going to get a little cold.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That doesn't happen now. I feel like that happens more often elsewhere where it's like, I'll give you an example. Oh, I'm in Duluth in Minnesota. Like I'm in northern Minnesota.
But you're dressing for it to be cold there.
No, but it's like all of a sudden in Duluth, they have an uncharacteristically warm day. It's like, let's say it's March 8th. Like, wow, it's a high of 68. Normally it's like still winter time in Duluth. It's 68. And then by nighttime, it's like 19 because a new weather pattern has moved in. Well, yeah, it's Duluth. I don't know. My point is we don't get that type of variance. We don't go from 68 to 28.
But in San Diego, to my point, is you might dress like right now, I'm wearing a t-shirt.
It's warm out.
It's warm out. But by the time I leave here, it's going to be a little cold. So I'm like walking to my car. I'm like, I'm a little chill. It's a little chilly right now. See, Brent comes prepared. Brent's got a nice shirt on.
He's right. He'll be chilly by the time we get out.
No, when Sammy leaves here at 4:02.
Oh, when Sammy leaves,
it's gonna be lovely out.
But when we leave at
it's
7 o'clock, it's gonna be chilly.
But again, we don't get it's not like we're in a desert, like in Palm Springs, where like it could be 100 during the day, but then it loses a lot of its temperature, right? Like in overnight or not necessarily.
It depends.
In Palm Springs.
I lived in. See, if you don't know, I'm from Southern California. That's why these comments are coming. But yes, Palm Springs, it can be 120. Then they get down to a cool, 100. Nice 100 at night during the summer.
Anyway, the point is, here we are in January. We got the Farmers Insurance Open going on right now at Torrey. I was watching that on ESPN. It looks ridiculous. And I'm looking at the weekend forecast. Now I'm going to Logan, Utah tomorrow. But tomorrow it's 80 in San Diego. On Saturday it's 81. On Sunday it's 73. Like Jim.
That's why people pay the freight.
Move back, dude. Come on, be a man. All right. So I sent out a tweet earlier today. I didn't expect it to get any traction. And I put the Padres have a top 30 farm system in baseball. And people have been laughing at it because there's only 30 teams.
There's nowhere to go but out.
They could catapult from here, you know? So Kylie McDaniel ranks the system. You've heard me say repeatedly all week and for the last couple of weeks, I'm not ripping the Padres for the state of their system. I really don't care.
Right.
I hope they have the worst farm system in the history of baseball if they win the World Series. Honestly,
of course.
I hope that the single A tin caps, I hope the tin caps go 11 and 129 this year. If it assures the Padres of getting to a World Series, forget about winning it. I'll take the Tin Caps going 11 and 129 if the Padres get to the National Championship Series. I'll take the Tin Caps not winning a game for the Padres to win postseason series. So now, do I think you need players in your system to help you get where you want to go along the way? Is it more sustainable to build from within? Yeah, you can't buy every position on the field. You have to be able to hit on players like Jackson Merrill. I give them credit for Tatis. I know he wasn't drafted by them. He had never played professionally before he was in their organization. They deserve credit. So the point is, Tatis and Merrill kind of make the thing go initially. You'd love to have, another influx of a player or two of that caliber. All right, their system is the worst in baseball, according to Kylie McDaniel. It makes sense. They've traded a lot of pieces away. I'll trade it, though. If they win 91 games, if they are in the postseason, if they can win a wild card series or host a wild card series, I'm trading it to win in the majors.
In baseball farm systems, I think, to be fair to the Padres, can be a little bit overvalued. I mean, sometimes, yes, and this is not me having revisionist history. Obviously, you make the Juan Soto deal. If that kid come out that AJ Preller had Juan Soto on the table and said no for a bunch of prospects at the time that no one knew would pan out, he would have been fired on the spot. But, in that kind of scenario, it's Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, all three are big time players, especially James Wood. Looks like he kind of become a potential superstar here. But there's just as many deals. Like I'm blanking on the player that got traded for Mookie Betts to the Red Sox, and he didn't even play for him.
That.
So I feel like sometimes, obviously, you want to have a good farm system, and this is where the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees and all these teams can just trade for stars because it can throw a bunch of prospects out there. But I do feel like we get a little bit caught up sometimes in, oh, well, this farm system's ranked here. It's like, just because they're ranked well doesn't mean they're going to pan out at the major league level. To your point, I'd rather have a big time major league roster with a shot to go do something, which the Padres do. The Padres do have a shot to do something legit this year versus, hey, let's just restock a farm system that you're probably going to ship off in a couple of years anyway.
Yeah, like there's this, I don't know if it's a fine line, but there's different theories on how to do it. Some teams will do it solely from within. Then you get players under control. Other teams will go the free agency route. Other teams will do a combination of both. I mean, obviously under Preller, he trades away a lot of his pieces. You know, they get accolades, people get excited, and all of a sudden, arguably the top middle infield prospect in the sport is gone for a closer. And by the way, I respect it. I get it.
They went all in.
Yeah, I mean, just go. I mean, if you're all in, you're all in. Like when you're all in, like what's the point? Like that's how you should. That's how you got to act. You can't be like 1 foot all in. Like you have to act with your hair on fire when you're in AJ Preller's position. There have been some recent articles about this. He's not someone to be thinking about, what does this mean for my next contract? What does this mean for 2027?
Or the contract that's in front of him right now that's not signed.
Right, exactly. Like he's really in it for right now. And I kind of respect that. Not kind of respect it. I really do respect it. There will be a day where AJ Preller is no longer the general manager of the Padres, whether it's in 2027 or 2037 or somewhere in between. But somewhere in there, that day is coming. And I think we'll look back on it and be like, man, I miss when AJ Preller did this or acted in this manner, because the current organization doesn't act that way. And I do think that day will come.
To make an analogy, I really feel like the Padres, now they don't have the winning of this team, are the kind of Golden State Warriors right now. The Golden State Warriors are a bottom tier Western Conference playoff team. They're front runners to land Giannis right now because of all the picks. Now, some people could go, if you're a Warrior fan, those picks after Curry are going to be extremely valuable because the team with Curry's old, Draymond's old, you could try to build around Kuminga, but everyone knows in Golden State, you're not winning a championship this year. So to your point about half in, half out the door, the Warriors might go, screw it. We're going to be terrible for a decade, but we're going to go try to land Giannis and try to make a couple more runs at this thing. I feel like the Padres are in a similar scenario. They're a perennial playoff team that we know if they get there could be something, but it's like to just shop for the farm system and rebuild for the future. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like, keep going all in. The Bogarts contracts aren't going anywhere. The Machado contracts aren't going anywhere. So build with the guys that you have. It's just the whole, I'm with you. Like, I'm not going to kill Preller for trading a bunch of prospects away, even for a closer, which a lot of people would scoff at.
The one thing I did think was kind of funny when I was looking at this list was the number one overall farm system, according to this person at ESPN, was the Brewers. Okay. They had 8 top 100 prospects. We talked yesterday about the Padres had 0. Well, the Brewers have 8 top 100 prospects. But it just reminded me, remember when the Brewers traded Freddie Peralta and all the Dodger people were like, oh, see, look, the Brewers aren't even trying. They're just trading. No, that's why they can trade away guys like Freddie Peralta, because they have
build
8.
It back up.
Yes, exactly.
It gives them a level of stability because these players are controllable once they reach the major leagues. Now, to each their own, you can win multiple ways. The Brewers are winning their way. I think the Padres are winning another way. And of course, the Dodgers are winning a whole nother way. And they've been at the top of the heap. But yeah, again, I'd much prefer winning at the major league level than anything going on in the minor leagues with my system. All right, Jon Wilner, if you missed him yesterday, great voice on all things college athletics. The Pac-12 is meeting this week, and Jon Wilner has the latest on the 2026 football schedule, its championship game, men's basketball, where will the conference tournament be when San Diego State heads to the Pac-12 in 2026 later this year. We'll hear from Jon Wilner coming up next. Here until 6, we have Aztec tickets to give away. We have San Diego Seals tickets to give away. Sammy's going to hang out until 4 p.m. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by King's Hawaiian Sliders. The Aztecs defeated Colorado State last night, 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage begins at 9 a.m. John will have the tip after 10 a.m. The Patriots held their first practice today, leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to quarterback Drake May's injured throwing shoulder was kept out of the view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant at practice after landing on his right shoulder after being tackled in the AFC Championship game. And tonight at 6, we have the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. John and the head coach sit down to preview Saturday's game at Utah State and look back at last night's win against Colorado State. Nothing brings friends and family together on game day like delicious King's Hawaiian Sliders. Bring them to the big game table and be the real MVP. Pick up some this weekend in the bakery or deli section of your local store. Football and King's irresistible Hawaiian Sliders. There's nothing like it.
All right, hour 2. San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Sammy Long. All right, so we had John Wilner, Bay Area News Group, on the show yesterday, and he wrote about the Pac-12 having meetings this week in Northern California. This includes San Diego State, and they have a lot of questions that still need to be answered. I just asked Brent, I said, where do I start this? And he's like, with the Pac-12. But what did I specifically ask him to start the interview? Brent's going to listen back. But there's talk, I think it's about the football schedule. And how it still has to be determined.
It could be a surprise for everyone.
It could be a surprise.
We could not give the question and just have him have the answer, and people can try to guess the questions like Jeopardy.
I guess we could do that. It's not a bad idea. What do you think, Brent? On the Pac-12 schedule? All right, John Wilner, Bay Area News Group. If you missed this yesterday, a lot of good insight in here for Aztec fans and Pac-12 fans. And we started the conversation, I think, asking about what the Pac-12 is going to do with its 2026 football schedule.
The first thing they had to do was wait to see what the college football playoff was going to be like for next season. That wasn't determined until last week. They decided they were going to stay at 12 because if they had expanded to 16, that could have impacted the Pac-12's thinking on, the competitive aspect of the schedule, determining a champion, all that kind of thing. So they basically put off a final decision until they knew what the CFP was going to look like. They are meeting now, 3 days of meetings with the athletic directors, the presidents, and the conference executives in the Bay Area, and they are weighing a couple of options for the 2026 schedule. My guess is that they will basically decide on which model they want, but it could be another week or two before there's an official release to the public, because they're going to have to then, once they decide on the model, then figure out all the details at the campus level. So that could take a little bit of time.
So when we talk about models, I know you've written about this. This has been discussed among, Pac-12 fans, but for those that haven't been following this story, there's 8 teams that play football, which means you only have 7 opponents. Typically in college football, you're playing 8+ league games, not 7 or fewer. So to get to 8 league games, you could play someone twice. I know there's been this flex scheduling idea, maybe late in the season as well. What do you see to be most likely?
I think there's really 3 options. One is that they would play 8 conference games. So everybody would play each other, and then there would be a home and home series.
Okay.
So San Diego State would play Colorado State twice, and both games would count towards the league standings. They could also have a home and home setup where San Diego State plays Colorado State twice, but one of them is a non-conference game. That would mean there'd be 7 league games. The other option is to build in some kind of flex scheduling week. I don't know, the second to last week of November, maybe the last week of November. Basically, you would leave it open, and then the conference would decide on the matchups based on what is going to give it the best chance to get a team in the playoff. Now, the flex scheduling is, that is another layer of complication for the schools in the middle of the season, which is one reason you haven't seen other conferences do it already. because it's an intriguing approach from a competitive standpoint and a CFP standpoint, but it's just hard to pull off. My guess is if I were betting a nickel, I would probably say they end up going with a model where they have a home and home series. Each team plays one other team twice, and one of those games is a non-conference. So there would be 7 conference games, 5 non-conference games, but one of those non-conference games would actually be against a league opponent. The reason they don't want to have 5 non-conference games against teams from other leagues is because it's expensive, right? If you're going to pay to bring in an FCS school, you got to shell out. It's like mid to high 6 figures in a lot of cases. It's an expense that they don't want. And it's also a competitive, it could undermine your strength of schedule. So there's a lot of reasons for implementing the home and home. As much as it sounds like, that's not very exciting. On a practical level, it would work for the conference for 1 year, and they're really just talking about the 26 schedule right now.
That's really good insight from John Wilner, who's with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. You've heard this, John. I've at least seen it like in the periphery. You're hearing that the league, at least to some extent, wants to be creative and outside the box, right? Because it is new. They have a bit of a blank canvas. It's still college athletics, but when you think about outside the box and creative with this league, whether it's the 9-team basketball league or the 8-team football league, like what comes to mind? What are 1 or 2 things that they may be considering right now that would be maybe atypical in other FBS or Division I leagues that they might be able to execute on?
Yeah, I don't know that there is really that much because they are constrained by a couple of things. They're constrained on the scheduling front, because most teams are already booked up for next year. Right. And they're constrained. Same thing with basketball. There's only a certain number of games you can play. You got to do X, Y, and Z to make sure your champion's going to get into the NCAA tournament or the CFP.
Sure.
So there's not that much. The flex scheduling idea is one. They could have a little bit of creativity with the football schedule, not who each team's playing, but when they're playing.
Yeah.
Right. How much will they lean into weeknight games, Thursday, Friday? Could they play? I think they should consider playing on Sunday, believe it or not. I think they should, why not go put a college football game on Sunday nights? Anybody who doesn't care about the NBC Sunday night NFL game, you could watch a college game, or some other time that's a little bit unusual for football games. The night before Thanksgiving, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, I've always thought would be a great time for a game. Everybody wants football by 5:00 the night before Thanksgiving. So I think that's a big part of how they could get creative. But they want, the 2 things that they want to do are put their champion in, or their best team in position to get into the playoff. And also, they want to stay flexible because they are still exploring expansion for 2027, whether it's with some Mountain West schools or someone else. So they're looking at all this just as 1 year, because they don't know what their league is going to look like in 27 and beyond. Part of that has to do with the lawsuits with the Mountain West, other things going on across the college sports landscape. So they are trying to be as flexible as they can, but they're really only looking at 1 year.
I wanted to ask you just about the strength of the basketball league. I want to say you've written on this as well. Moving forward, when you pair Gonzaga with San Diego State, you look at what Utah State has done, and it's amazing with the coaching changes, how much success they've had. Obviously, Boise State and Colorado State have been in a lot of NCAA tournaments over the last handful of years. I think Boise 3 of 4 and CSU 3 of 4. Yes, you have Texas State. They have to emerge. Yes, Fresno State. But you got at least 5 of your 9 are certainly capable of reaching the NCAA tournament more often than not. How will this league stack up with, I don't know, maybe the current Mountain West or the current Big East in your estimation moving forward?
I think that it could be the best conference outside the Power Four. Right now, that title would go to the Big East, right? And, when you got Villanova and Connecticut, that's what, 5 national champions in the last decade or something. But, the new Pac-12 could certainly be as good as the Big East. That would not surprise me at all. It will be better than the current Mountain West. And I'm not going to say it would be better than the old Pac-12, but it's going to be pretty close. The old Pac-12 wasn't that good a basketball league. You had Arizona and UCLA, and then it was So I think it could be real good, and there's money to be made because you get into the tournament, you get those units, and that helps pay the bills. So I think that if you're looking how the competitive landscape, the new Pac-12 basketball will be better against the competition than the new Pac-12 football will be.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight. Are they done, the Pac-12? Correct me if I'm wrong. They've announced 3 television packages. Do they have an additional package that they're trying to sell right now for Olympic sports or streaming opportunities? Is that out there right now or not?
One more. There's a 4th package, Olympic sports. I think there's women's basketball, but they are trying to sell that. And I don't know where that's going to end up. It could end up just Pac-12 Enterprises, the production arm of the conference. They could just take those sports events and produce them digitally. So I don't know exactly, but yes, there is a 4th package of inventory that has not been claimed yet. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I assume by the spring, but football and men's basketball are accounted for with the 3 deals they've announced.
John Wilner Hotline with us right now on San Diego Sports 760. On the opposite side of the coin, we're still waiting on the Mountain West to announce its future TV deal. What's the process that's playing out there with the Mountain West right now?
Well, I've been hearing they're close for about 3 months. I don't know. I can't say for sure whether the lawsuits are impacting it. They didn't impact the Pac-12, so my guess is they aren't impacting the Mountain West. But I do think that the new Mountain West, the TV deal, is going to be less. They're going to go backwards, is my guess. So currently, the 6-year deal with Fox and CBS that's ending this year pays, I think, each school on average about $4.5 million over the course of the 6 years. And I would suspect that the deal that they're going to announce at some point here for the new Mountain West is going to pay each school less than $4.5 million, probably closer to $3 or $3.5 million. So they are going to go backwards. Now, the impact that might have on the Mountain West, I don't know. That and the lawsuits are certainly issues that the conference has got to deal with that could ultimately affect the membership of the Mountain West. We still don't know for sure long term what UNLV and Air Force are going to do.
Yeah, what's the real quick on that, John? Just a couple more for you. What's the working theory on UNLV staying put? Because again, from the outside looking in, it appears like the top of the Mountain West is moving to the Pac-12. UNLV would fancy itself to be at the top of the current Mountain West. What went into their determination to stay?
I think a lot of it was that they wanted to be kind of the big fish in the smaller pond.
Gotcha.
And they felt that UNLV's ultimate goal is to get in the Power 4. They want to be in the Big 12. And they felt this is what I think, being in the bigger fish in the smaller pond would give them a better chance to get into the Big 12. I happen to think they made a colossal strategic mistake in their administration, completely botched it. But, they are where they are. Now, we don't know for sure. Again, they're saying they're going to be in the Mountain West, but realignment is a funny thing. And until it is done and the contracts are signed and their grant of rights are signed long term and you can't get out of anything, you never know what's going to happen. So I would say it's a small chance that UNLV ends up in the Pac-12, but it is greater than zero. That is for sure.
That's interesting. Final one is just on these championships. Football championship in the Pac-12, more likely a campus site or a neutral site, and then championship site for a basketball tournament. Is it almost inevitably going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada?
I would think 99% sure it's going to be in Las Vegas, men's and women's tournaments.
Okay.
Football, again, it's a 1-year deal. They're just basically making all these decisions for 2026. My guess is that they will go a home host model, where the highest seed hosts the championship game. They will probably view that not only as just logistically practical for 1 year, but also, again, it's all about getting the champ into the CFP. And if you've got, Boise or San Diego State, and they're sitting there at 11-1, and they're the highest ranked team in the group of 6, you want to play it at home, because if they win, they're going to get in the playoff. So I think that will be their guiding principle. And especially just for 1 year, right? That's, it's also harder to sign a lease with a stadium for just 1 year. It's a lot easier to go and just play at home.
I said, final question. I want to ask you about Sean Lewis at San Diego State. From 3-9 to 9-4, they were in a double overtime game at New Mexico, away from being 10-2 before losing in the final regular season game, keeping them out of a Mountain West championship. What do you make of the job that Sean has done here in 2 years in San Diego?
Yeah, I thought it was a terrific hire by J.D. Wicker at the time. And to be honest, I was more surprised at the 3-9 than I was at the 9-3. Gotcha. But I get the fact that, there was a lot going on, and, it can take time to get your culture and your scheme and all that kind of in place. But if you had said to me at the time of the hire, do you think there's a chance the Aztecs could be 9-3 at the end of his second year? I would have said absolutely. The guy's a phenomenal coach. Just look at what he did at Kent State. I don't view what happened with Dion as being relevant to anything else in college football.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, he's again, the adage I think in college football is if you can win at Kent State, you can win anywhere. I think Sean Lewis is proving that right now. John, appreciate the insight. Hope all is well, and look forward to doing it again when we have some more news with these leagues.
Thanks.
All right, John Wilner, Bay Area News Group. We're going to switch gears to the NFL. On the other side, John Schaefer, Sammy Long with you. What do 2027 Super Bowl odds tell us about the current state of the NFL? That's next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Sammy Long. By the way, congratulations. We can mention Michelle, right? Up at Oceanside, who won
Michelle,
our national national contest. So this is the contest. San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the bonus bucks giveaway every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com, and your next chance to win $1,000 is at 4 p.m. Last night, Michelle in Oceanside, this is a national contest, the chance to win $1,000. Last night, Michelle is listening to San Diego Sports 760. She enters the keyword at sportssd.com at 6 p.m. Guess what? She's $1,000 richer.
Michelle.
How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Because, okay, so iHeart has close to 1,000 stations, 850 plus, I think at this point, stations in the country. I mean, you're talking about, FM signals in Los Angeles and New York and AM signals everywhere, all over the country, from Asheville, North Carolina to Allentown, Pennsylvania to San Diego, California. And they're giving away $1,000 every hour during the weekdays, but you start doing the math on it, like there's a lot of stations. It's like playing the lottery. It's like, it's hard to win the lottery. Now this is free. So anyway, it just goes to show that if you do this every hour at sportssd.com, you've got as good of a chance as anyone else, because Michelle last night did this and won $1,000 from this national campaign with iHeart.
And of course, since it fell in during our show, we're going to take 100% of the credit. If it wasn't for us, Michelle never would have tuned in and heard the keyword.
That's right.
Because she's just such a big fan of the show. So
that's exactly right.
You're welcome, Michelle.
She won in spite of Fletch and Sammy.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what should happen. Hold on. If your station has the winner, I feel like the station host should be rewarded.
I think
Michelle's
so too.
Yeah, we should get 10%. We should get $100.
There's something called a VIG in gambling. Okay,
right? The take, right? Or yeah.
I mean, we could all go to the casino with that.
Yeah.
Michelle's got some walking around money.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you just sent me this list, and we can touch on this more throughout the course of the hour. These are 2027 Super Bowl odds, next Super Bowl, right? And this is what it tells me. It tells me that the league is wide open, because earlier in the decade, you would have teams heading into Super Bowl weekend that for the next year, teams like Kansas City and Philadelphia, let's say over the last 5 years, that they had already very short odds for the next year. They'd be 3-1 to win the next Super Bowl, 2-1, plus 200, plus 300. This year right now, for next year's Super Bowl, no team has shorter odds than plus 750. That's Seattle, which means no team is better than 7.5 to 1 right now to win next year's Super Bowl. So there's not really a dominant team. Like, we can look at this list and toss it around, Sammy, over the next 15 or 20 minutes. But I mean, there's a handful of teams that all have similar, short to medium long odds to win next year's Super Bowl, which I guess is good for the league, but there's no prohibitive favorite right now for next year.
Well, I think it's it's going to be a really interesting offseason, because both the teams this year, so May and Darnold with, Seattle and New England, Seattle being the favorite makes sense. I mean, they're a young team. They're only going to get better. You feel like if Darnold breaks through and wins a Super Bowl, the sky's the limit. But there's a lot of question. I mean, you play in a brutal division. Like the Niners, to be fair, I give the Niners a lot of crap because Fletch and Jim are on the station forever. But they like the defense is going to be will all come back next year. The Rams are going to be back in the picture. Brent's Bears are going to be in the picture. You got Washington, Jaden Daniels. I think people kind of forgot about that story. Them going to the NFC title game year before in Philly, so they don't feel like a lock. In the AFC side is interesting. Like New England and Denver playing the AFC title game, but no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow. You all expect probably all three of those are coming back to the postseason, or at least a few of them are coming back. New England's all the way down the charts at plus 1,700. They're like in the 10th to 12th best odds. It's just crazy how
they're in the Super Bowl.
They're in the Super Bowl. So it's like, it shows you people aren't believing maybe these teams, this was an anomaly type year in the league.
I bet the New England thing stems from their easy schedule to where
100%.
they're not going to have the same
harder
type of schedule next year.
And harder. There's no way you have the same path to the Super Bowl where you're playing the Chargers at home, the Texans who never win road playoff games, who are dealing with injuries.
Jared Stidham at quarterback.
And then Bo Nix is out. So, you're not going to have that path. I want to get into some of these teams in terms like who's got better odds to win the Super Bowl next year. We can touch on this on the other side. Is it Kansas City or is it the Chargers? Are the Chiefs more likely to get to the Super Bowl, or the Chargers? We'll discuss that on the other side. Again, we have Aztec tickets for Tuesday night against Wyoming back at Viejas Arena to give away. We're here until 6. Brian Dutcher Show is coming up at 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by King's Hawaiian Sliders. San Diego State defeated Colorado State last night, 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage begins at 9 in the morning. John will have the tip a little after 10 a.m. The Patriots held their first practice today leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant on today's injury report after landing on his right shoulder while being tackled in the AFC Championship game. And in one other NFL note, the Eagles are hiring Sean Mannion as their new offensive coordinator. Mannion is 33. He coached for just 2 years, breaking in as an offensive offensive assistant for the Packers. Last year, he was promoted to be their QB coach. And tonight we had the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show at 6:00. John and the head coach sit down and preview this weekend's huge game at Utah State and more. Nothing brings friends and family together on game day like delicious King's Hawaiian sliders. Bring them to the big game table and be the real MVP. Pick some up this weekend at the bakery or deli section of your local store. Football and King's irresistible Hawaiian sliders. There's nothing like it.
All right, Padres have made a signing. We'll get into that in about 15 minutes. We were discussing Super Bowl odds for next season. Right now, Seattle is the favorite for what we're going to see a week from Sunday at Levi's Stadium. And Seattle's what, a 4.5 point favorite?
4.5 now. They opened as 3.5. It's been bet up.
All right, so it's been bet up to 4.5. Now next year, Seattle is also a favorite. They're at plus 750, with the Rams having the second shortest odds at plus 800. From there, it's the Ravens and Bills plus 1,200, the Packers plus 1,300, and would you believe it's the Chargers, not the Chiefs, that have shorter odds in the AFC West. The Chargers are plus 1,500. That's 15-1. The Chiefs are plus 1,600, which is 16-1. You are a lifelong diehard Chiefs fan. Does that make sense to you right now based on where these two teams are heading into next year or not?
I think them being even is fair. I think the Chargers are very clear they're going to get their tackles back. And their primary reason for bowing out in the playoffs was the offensive line. Now, I think there's some bigger issues than just that. Like, their tackles are great. Their interior offensive line is really rough. They got to get rid of Bradley Bozeman and some of those guys. And they do have an aging defense. The Chiefs I think will go up in odds as the draft and free agency happens, because right now it's the same roster that missed the playoffs this year. And obviously Mahomes got hurt, but the Chiefs were losing a bunch of close games. I do think the 9th overall pick, the Chiefs got to get a pass rusher. Their run game has been atrocious the last couple of years. So potentially Breece Hall signing in the offseason. Like, I think obviously it's going to look a lot different here in a couple months after free agency and the draft, but there's kind of a collection of Philly, Detroit, and the Chiefs all clumped together, all kind of Philly and KC obviously have dominated the last few years. Detroit's been that team that people thought were kind of going to get over the hump, but it just goes to show, like, are you valuing the young quarterbacks? Like Drake May and Bo Nix are both kind of halfway down this list, and people might put them as the next like stars in the league, but it's just, it's such an anomaly year with, is it going to go right back to Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, and Burrow competing to go to the Super Bowl? Or is it really that there's kind of a new wave of quarterbacks coming in and it's going to change the AFC for the foreseeable future?
Let me ask you this. So New England, we always think of New England with Brady and Belichick as like this like all-time dynasty, and it was. But there are these two runs. You look back and they won a Super Bowl in 01, 03, 04. Chiefs basically did the exact same thing, right? It was 3 and 4 years. Mm-hmm. Is that right? And what was it? 19,
5 years, 3 and 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 and 5 years, same thing, whatever. Then, do you know New England went 10 years between Super Bowl victories?
People forget that.
10. So now we know Kansas City's at least, 3+ seasons between Super Bowl championships. They didn't win it against Philadelphia. The last one was in 2023. So this will now be a third straight Super Bowl they haven't won. Is that correct?
Second, because they beat the Niners the year before.
23 season they won the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl was held in 2024. I guess I'd ask you this: as a Chiefs fan, could you envision something like that? Will the second act for the Chiefs take that much time? Will there be a second act for Mahomes, and could it still be 5, 6, 7 years down the line?
I would hesitate to say that far. Like, I'm taking the fandom out of it. I don't think it'll take that long, but there is credence to when you're picking at 32 in the late first round, you're not getting top tier talent. You're not getting, and anyone listening to the show right now can pick in the top 10 in the NFL draft. I mean,
you could probably hit with a good right.
It's slotted. All the guys are supposed to be superstars. Yeah. And you kind of went through this tier of, obviously Kelsey kind of aged out of this thing. Chris Jones, star pass rusher, getting older. So some of the stars that have carried this team for a long time aren't quite what they used to be. So there has to be a little bit of a rebuild. We'll see if they can do that in a year. Mahomes got the injury. He says he's going to be ready for week 1, but we'll see if that actually happens. It's just I'm really curious to see if, like, it's supposed to be with Mahomes out. Is it going to be Josh Allen's time? Was it going to be Lamar Jackson's time or Joe Burrow's time? In all 3 of those teams, except for Zach Taylor with Burrow, you have a new head coach in Brady with the Bills, and you got Jesse Minter with the Ravens, and they're 2 of the top Super Bowl odds going for next year. So it's like, is it going to be more of the same? Do you trust coaching and Sean Payton with Denver, Andy Reid with Kansas City, or are you going with these young gun hires thinking they're going to put them over the top? It's going to be such a wide open field next year.
What's interesting to me, back to the Chiefs briefly, or even the Chiefs Chargers, is that if the Chiefs, and I think most people expect this to be the case, I don't think Patrick Mahomes has won his last Super Bowl, but it's hard to win Super Bowls. We have to remember that. It's not easy. But if there's a second act for the Chiefs, anything like New England's in the 2010s, it'll likely be with a different head coach eventually. Unless they're winning a Super Bowl in the next year or two, possible. But to your point, dealing with injuries, coming off a season in which they're out of the postseason, not the favorite. If this is even 3 years down the road, I mean, how much longer? You have a better feel than that. How much longer is Andy going to be there?
So Belichick was there the whole time. Reid probably got 5 years left at most. I think at most,
which is still a lot of time. I mean, you could win multiple Super Bowls in 5 years when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
It just comes down to front offices with all these teams, because it's went from Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, and Burrow, all these guys on rookie contracts, to they're all making the big money. And Mahomes has shown a willingness like Brady for a lot of those years, because when Brady was going through that 10-year slump, 8-year slump, he was the first quarterback to give back part of his contract, to be very flexible with the salary cap,
to make the rest of the roster work.
He had a unique situation. He was obviously married to Giselle.
Yeah.
So his net worth's like $800 million. So it's a little bit different, but Mahomes is in that kind of, I mean, he's signed a $500 million contract. So it's like, who's going to win on the edges? Is the Chiefs? Brett Veach has shown a proclivity to drafting well. That's the Buffalo's problem, is they have not drafted well with Brandon Beane, 2 Pro Bowlers, and James Cook and Dawson Knox. So it's who's going to break through. I do think the Chiefs are perennially, anytime you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes going into a season, you're going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl, but there are some massive holes on this roster that have to be addressed.
There's going to come a time where, with Jim Harbaugh in LA, there's going to be a postseason run. I mean, his track record supports a year or two in there where it's put together. Now, I'm not saying they're winning Super Bowls. I have no idea. I mean, that's another level, like we always talk about in sports. But they've certainly gone from the point where it's like, who's their head coach? They're irrelevant. They still have Justin Herbert. They have Jim Harbaugh. Now they have to win a playoff game under Justin Herbert first, but there's going to be a year, to your point, if they get their tackles back, if they're healthier, they're going to be hosting a playoff game. They're going to be in position to win a playoff game at some point. You have to assume under Jim Harbaugh sooner rather than later.
I think them getting Mike McDaniel.
Totally. It's a great hire.
Yeah,
because look, Jim Harbaugh, former Bear. I love Jim Harbaugh. He's a great coach, but he's not exactly a great offensive mind. He's very basic with his,
very culture building,
with his game plans and everything else. Mike McDaniels is not. So I think he is going to, just go full throttle with Justin Herbert and just unleash him on the league, opposed to kind of what Harbaugh's been doing, and not necessarily holding him back, but just kind of keeping the limit on him and just not letting him go crazy.
I totally agree. I think that's why Mike McDaniel passed up potential head coaching jobs to go be the OC of the Chargers, knowing he's probably going to be the hottest head coaching candidate going into next year. And the thing, the the Patriots Chiefs comparisons, the dirty little secret about those runs with the Patriots was the Bills were terrible, the Jets were terrible, and Miami wasn't very good for any of those years.
True.
The Chiefs are in a division where I think it's depressing all their odds. The fact that Denver's obviously it was just in the AFC Championship game, not going anywhere. The Chargers are a good football team. Hell, the Raiders are going to get Fernando Mendoza, and they got Ashton Shensi and Brock Bowers. That's not a walkover. I feel like and then the Chiefs, you expect to be back in the picture. All 4 of those teams, maybe take the Raiders out, but all 3 of those teams are going to be legit threats. And I think that's depressing the odds of each one of them, because you don't have walkover wins in your division like New England had for so many seasons, where it just felt like they were going 6-0 every year and hosting home playoff games.
Yeah. And I'm also just curious, and we can discuss this more on the other side as well. And I do want to get into a signing that the Padres made earlier today. I'm also curious how long Jim Harbaugh stays, because if you look at his career, it's a lot of 3 years, 4 years. Now, Michigan was his alma mater, and even Ward is welcome there. And there's a lot of factors at play, but like, is this a 10-year run or is this a 4-year run? And that could go a long way in determining whether the Chargers actually ever break through with Justin Herbert.
I think that one thing that he has going with it being the pro as opposed to college is there's not as many rules that he can violate and break.
It's
like there was a
the fact that he ran
That's
from
why he's in
Michigan.
the NFL.
Yeah.
Basically.
Twice.
If not for the, yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. All right. Padres have made a signing. What does it mean for their 2026 season? Plus more again on next Sunday. We'll have the Super Bowl obviously at Levi's Stadium here until 6 p.m. Brian Dutcher show at 6. If you've got a question for Dutch tonight, you can get it in on our text line 70470. Start it with the word team. That's 70470. Start it with the word team. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, back with you here on San Diego Sports 760. Again, John Schaefer, Sammy Long. The wrap coming up at 4 p.m. We'll give away Aztec tickets for Tuesday night in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Brian Dutcher show at 6. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can get it in. So I think we've buried the lead, and I joke. Did you see the Padres made a signing, Marco Gonzalez, to a minor league deal?
A little lefty going on there.
Yeah, crafty lefty coming off of elbow surgery, I think, last year. I think this speaks to their general financial state, which is they don't have a lot of money. Marco Gonzalez, if he makes the team, I think he's guaranteed $1 million, could make up to $1.5 million. So if he makes the team, he's making $1 million. He could make up to $1.5 million. Here's a 33-year-old. He'll turn 34 in February. So he'll be 34 when the season starts. His career numbers are fine. Now, last year, again, he had surgery. No, he didn't pitch last year. In 2024, he had surgery. He made 7 starts, had a 4.54. The year before that, made 10 starts, had a 5.22. The year before that, 2022 in Seattle, nice year, 32 starts, 183 innings, had a 4.13 ERA. The issue here is whenever you're coming off an injury or you're a few years removed from your best year, it's hard to get back there. Like, you're asking for a lot. Fix him. Ruben Niebla can do it. If anyone can do it, Ruben Niebla. I guess this is one of those like on the edges, periphery moves. Maybe he can make a handful of starts for you or benefit you in some way. But this is the classic example of like low risk. I don't think there's high reward. I just think it's a low risk.
It's a body for
return.
Camp.
Yeah, you just buy into a player that maybe can benefit you in some way and maybe speaks to the issue that the Padres are in with their payroll.
I'm with you on the right. It's a depth signing, and maybe there's some upside here. Maybe they can squeeze something out of them. The Padres have, especially in terms of bullpen arms, not necessarily starters, but have found some kind of diamonds in the rough a little bit over the years.
Yeah, and he could be a reliever as well. Yeah.
So if they see something in him, that's great. What I hope this isn't is, hey, this is our resolution to starting pitching woes, because
this is our what we're just talking about. This is our number 2 starter.
Number 2 starter, like we talked about. Nick Pivetta, let's be honest. Nick Pivetta had an unbelievable season last year. The goal for Nick Pivetta is to replicate that exact same season. Michael King dealt with injuries throughout the year. Hopefully he's having a fully healthy campaign. And Joe Musgrove, you want to bring along slowly. So I'm all for depth pieces, but you need a proven, we talked about Zach Gallen, maybe Framber Valdez out of their price range. Nick Martinez, Verlander. I have hesitations with Verlander because of his age. I don't think he's going to be able to throw bulk starts, but you need a guy who you can point to and go, all right, he's going to eat up a lot of innings throughout the year for us and bring Musgrove along slowly. This is not a signing that does that. You want a proven name who's been there before. So if they go out and sign someone and along with this, great. But if this is the big move, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I don't. There was something today. I think it was at BR, whatever that
Bleacher Report.
There was something about top 10 landing spots for Framber Valdez, and the Padres were on that list. But I have to take that with a grain of salt because they're on the list because they have AJ Preller. They're on the list because the list included 10 teams. I mean, 10 teams is 1/3 of the league, and they were 9th on the list. So you don't typically think about a team with the 9th best odds as being a team that's actually going to land this player. But I don't think this goes back to our initial conversation from earlier in the week about Yu Darvish. They're looking for salary relief for Darvish because without it, they're going to do it around the edges with these, minor league signings. Maybe you hit on one of them like Marco Gonzalez. I think if you actually get out from underneath that Darvish deal and you get your $43 million back or some of it, and you get your $15 million back or some of it for 2026, that's where you'll see them actually strike with something of real significance. This is what every organization, I guess, is doing. It's a flyer deal. $1 million here, $1 million there. All teams have that. Maybe it hits, but this can't be like the grand scheme was to let's wait on Marco Gonzalez. This is how we're going to finish off our rotation.
Do you think there's anything they're going to surprise everyone and have Mora home transition to be a starter? Or someone like that? I mean, people talk about Miller, but that doesn't seem very plausible.
Sound like Miller. I mean, could they transition a reliever to a starter? I think they could. But also, it's like, you got to be careful what Adrian Morejon was really good out of your bullpen. Why jeopardize that? Mason Miller was really good out of your bullpen. Why jeopardize that? I don't know how long Morejon's under control. Is it one more year? I think it might be one more year. I mean, there's reasons to be tempted to move someone, convert someone. But here's the other thing about converting someone. You're never going to take someone that threw 55 innings and make them throw 150 the next year, because that's egregious and not how baseball operates really with the relievers. So you'd have to be so careful in doing that. You could up someone from 60 innings to 100 innings, but you're not going to up someone from 60 innings to 180 innings. So it's like, to what end or what's the point? So you're going to convert Adrian Morejon. You're going to be very cautious with him. He's going to be, throwing a lot of 60 and 70 pitch outings, 4 and 5 innings, which again has value. But I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think Morejon works. Miller works in their roles, and you'd be more successful trying to secure an actual starter to complete your rotation than convert a reliever to put in your rotation.
Totally. And you want to, Rob Paul to pay Peter? I mean, the bullpen's been fantastic. And you lose Suarez. I don't think that's as big of a deal because you're going to have Adam coming back at some point. I thought David Morgan was really good. Didn't get opportunities last year because of how good the top end of the bullpen was. But you have guys there that can certainly step up. I hope AJ Preller obviously makes decisions late, and it's kind of been close to opening days that we've seen some big names come in, but I really hope there's a legit name coming in here because you would hate to. We're also assuming all these guys are going to stay healthy. I mean, that we're looking best case scenario, Pavetta and King and these guys,
which you can't assume.
I mean, last year, theoretically, we thought 2 months out, Yu Darvish was going to be a day one starter and Michael King was going to be ready to go. And they were out for massive chunks of the season. So it's better to have, it's like pass rushers in the NFL. Got to have as many of them as possible. And it applies to pitching.
Yeah, exactly. The adage is like, you can never have too much pitching. And I would say the same thing with like a lineup. People are like, oh, what are they going to do at center field? They have too many center fielders. No such thing. It works itself out. It's always better to have too much as opposed to not enough. I would tie it back to San Diego State basketball. They're down 2 starters last night. 2. LZ Harrington, Magoon Guath, and they win going away because they have depth. If you don't have that depth, there's no way you get similar production. Like if you're relying on an 8-man rotation and 2 of your 8 are out, you're screwed. When you have a 10-plus player rotation and you're without 2 and there's not drop-off between your starters and your bench, you can still play the way they played last night.
Right, you've seen that help them in Mountain West Conference play. Magoon Guath being out.
Yeah.
LZ Harrington, like all these guys, I think a month ago you would have said that. You've been like, I don't know. But that depth that people maybe had concerns about early have certainly paid off as of late.
We have our first Hall of Fame voters that have publicly announced that they did not vote for Bill Belichick. And we will discuss that in the 4:00 hour. Plus gets the rapid. Sammy, thank you for sticking around for a couple hours, man.
Thank you, boys.
I think you're off tomorrow. Well, you're not off tomorrow. You're probably working your show, but Jonathan's in tomorrow because I'm traveling to Utah. So unless you want to hang out with J-Riff.
We'll let J-Riff do his thing.
All right. J-Riff tomorrow from 2 to 6. I'm heading to Logan, Utah. Sammy, appreciate you. We're back on the other side here until 6. Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. You can get your questions in at 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll get to the wrap, plus the first voters that have acknowledged they didn't vote for Bill Belichick. Why? That's next on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by King's Hawaiian Sliders. The Aztecs defeated Colorado State last night, 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage starts early at 9 a.m., and John will have the tip at 10 a.m. The Patriots held their first practice today leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant on today's injury report after landing on his right shoulder after being tackled in the AFC Championship game. And in another NFL note, the Eagles have hired Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion to be their new offensive coordinator. Tonight at 6 is the Sean Dutcher. It's Sean Dutcher. I'm combining my sports now. It's the Brian Dutcher coaches show tonight at 6. The head coach sits down with John and they look back at last night's win at against Colorado State and preview Saturday's game against Utah State. Nothing brings friends and family together on game day like delicious King's Hawaiian Sliders. Bring them to the big game table and be the real MVP. Pick some up this weekend in the bakery or deli section of your local store. Football and King's Hawaiian Sliders, there's nothing like it.
All right, with you here on San Diego Sports 760. And we'll get to the wrap coming up, and we'll do that maybe in 15 minutes. Also, we do have Aztec tickets to give away. We'll give those away this hour. All right, so San Diego State at Utah State on Saturday. Let's set the stage for this. What's to come on Saturday? You look at the Mountain West standings right now, and San Diego State at the halfway point is alone in first place. The Aztecs are 9-1 in the league. Right on their heels, Utah State and New Mexico. All right. The Aggies are 8-2 and the Lobos are 8-2. The Aztecs have beaten New Mexico at home. They still have to go to New Mexico and they still have 2 games against Utah State. One in Logan on Saturday. And the other game is going to be at Viejas Arena in February. San Diego State is 15-5 overall. And I think has changed the trajectory of their season within conference play. They've won 9 of the first 10. Shoot, they really have a strong argument to be 10-0. I know I've made that point a lot, and I know we can't go back and change a previous result, but the way they lost that game in Phoenix against Grand Canyon was really cruel, and they were in position to win that game. All right, they lost it. It's sports. It happens, and they're 9-1, but they're in position to be in position. I keep saying that, and I don't think any of this down the stretch is going to be easy for San Diego State, where, again, a year ago, the difference between a year ago and now is that a year ago, San Diego State had a Houston win in hand. And Houston all season long was essentially a top 5 team in America. So you always knew that when the selection committee got in a room, if it was going to be putting 2 resumes against each other, how many resumes were going to have a Houston win on them? Only San Diego State. That was one of the best wins in the non-conference in America last year. This year, while I could absolutely argue the Aztecs are playing as well this year as they were last year at this time, if not better, truthfully, the difference is the Aztecs don't have the same resume that they had a year ago. Last year, their resume was better than it is this time around. Now, that doesn't mean they can't reach the NCAA tournament as an at-large team. I just think it means that they need to definitively make their case in 2026 as opposed to in 2025, where you knew they were going to get the benefit of the doubt from the committee because they had beaten Houston and Creighton. This year, they go to Las Vegas and they had these opportunities against Michigan and Baylor and Oregon. And there's no shame in losing to Michigan. I know the margin was big. Michigan might win a national championship. And then the Baylor game, San Diego State led with 12 minutes to play. They ended up losing by 10 points. Baylor has not been what you would expect out of the Baylor Bears. I think they're 1-7 right now in the Big 12. And then they beat up on Oregon. They really did. This is when Oregon was healthy. They had their 2 stars. Oregon since then has lost their starting point guard, who's terrific, and they've lost their center, very good player. And they're just kind of a shell of themselves. So the Aztecs can't really hang their hat, unfortunately, on that Oregon win. So they've got some decent non-conference wins, and they don't have some, awful, horrific non-conference result. They lost to Troy at home. Troy's a good team. They could be favored to win their conference. They might win their conference when we get into the conference tournament season, Troy will be a favorite in the Sun Belt. It's a long way of me saying this, that the Aztecs are going to have to earn it in the league, and they're going to have to do it potentially with conviction or convincingly. I just don't know if they're getting the benefit this year that they got last year. So what does that mean? Like I saw last night, people were speculating like, San Diego State's in a great spot if they beat Utah State, but if they don't, they can't lose from there on out. And that's to me going too far, because that's not taking into account what's going to happen all around the country over the final 5 or so weeks of the regular season into conference tournaments. Like if San Diego State is on the bubble, there's a number of teams on the bubble. And it's not like if the Aztecs lose a game, everyone else is winning a game. I'll give you an example. Last night, a couple of other bubble-worthy teams in the West, Cal, the Bears, Stanford, who's had a good year, they both were playing ACC games in Florida. Make it make sense. Cal and Stanford playing Florida State, Miami. Florida State's like 9-13. Cal lost last night at Florida State. Miami's been very good. There's something like 16-4 or 17-4. And Stanford lost by 9 or 10 last night at Miami. But if San Diego State is on the bubble and can't lose, then should we assume that when Cal and Stanford are on the bubble, they can't lose? My point is all these teams can lose. Nobody on the bubble is going to be 10-0 down the stretch. At most, one team is capable of doing something like that. But there's going to be, 10, 15, 20 teams competing for 5 or 10 spots at the end of the day. And San Diego State is in that conversation. Now, the difference between Cal and Stanford and San Diego State is that maybe Cal and Stanford are going to have more opportunities at quad one games. They're in the ACC. So, they could stumble into a home game against North Carolina or Duke, for example, and so on and so forth. Virginia, maybe they win those games. And also, they're not at jeopardy to lose, as many quad 3 or quad 4 games in a power league as San Diego State may be. But I think the point remains the point, which is, yes, the Aztecs need to play well down the stretch, but they don't need to be perfect down the stretch. That's my point. And make no mistake, I'm not going into the Utah State game telling you they don't need to win the game. It would be amazing to win the game. I think winning the game on Saturday against Utah State really solidifies your resume. Again, it doesn't guarantee you anything. It doesn't excuse you if you lose at home to Wyoming or on the road at Air Force. You can't just beat Utah State on the road and then lose to Air Force on the road. That's not going to do you any good. If anything, that'll probably do you more harm than good. But does it solidify your resume? Yeah, absolutely. Does it put you in better standing? Yes. Does it give you a little bit of wiggle room? Yes. But the point I'm trying to make is your season's not on the line Saturday in Logan. Now, you can make a lot of where you are by winning that game. You create separation between you and the Aggies in the league. You put yourself in a position to maybe win the regular season in your final year in the Mountain West, although there's still 10 games left in the regular season. So we can't make definitive statements, obviously, right now about that. But again, that's how I look at Saturday. Like, it's a great opportunity. I think it's a huge challenge. Utah State's enjoying a great year. They have blown the doors off a lot of teams this year. Now, they've had their ups and downs. They had a blip in there where they lost to UNLV at home, which, with the benefit of hindsight is surprising. But last night, for example, they hosted Wyoming and they blew the doors off Wyoming. They won by 32 points last night. They had 28 assists on 33 field goals with 5 turnovers. So you're talking about an elite offense that is coming off a game in which they were humming, and a team that overall is 17-3. And of all the venues in the league, at least for the Aztecs, it's been as hard of a venue to win in. Under Brian Dutcher, who has won 75% of his games and taken the Aztecs to the tournament in 7 of his first 8 years, including a national championship game. Under Dutch, the Aztecs and Logan are 2-6, which speaks to how hard it is to win in Logan because it's a good environment, it's an elevation, and they have good teams. And that combination, it's not just hard on the Aztecs. Going 2-6 the last 8 years is probably the best record in the Mountain West in Logan. I don't think anyone has more than 2 wins in the last 8 seasons at Utah State. So it's a challenge. And I think San Diego State, I think on one hand, they're playing some of their best basketball. They really are. They're playing with confidence. The rotation is kind of sorting itself out. Even with the injuries, they've been able to deal with them because of the depth that they have. So on one hand, you really like the way they're playing. On another hand, you'd love to have a fully healthy Magoon Guath. You'd love to know that LZ Harrington is fully healthy. We'll see if he gives it a go on Saturday or not. I think even in the absence of Guath, and Guath is very unlikely, obviously, to play on Saturday because Brian Dutcher has said publicly he's more week to week than day to day. At this point, they hope to get him back at some point sooner rather than later, but he's still week to week. Even without Magoon and without LZ Harrington, if he were to not play, and he may play on Saturday, I still think the Aztecs have more than enough. I really do. I mean, they're still playing a 9-man rotation if those two players are out. And look at how they've played with Magoon out over the last 3 games. I mean, they've been in position. They've played some of their better basketball, honestly, at UNLV, home against Colorado State, come back against Grand Canyon before losing by 1 in heartbreaking fashion. So I think they have more than enough. Again, would you prefer to have Magoon Guath? Yeah, absolutely. Would you prefer to have a fully healthy LZ Harrington? Yeah, there's no question. But all teams are dealing with something, would be my guess, this time of year. And it's just such a good opportunity. And I just think this, we'll see how it plays out on Saturday. I think the way the Aztecs are playing, you feel confident that they will be in the game. Now, we don't know. I mean, there's a game a year maybe where it's going to be hard to stay in a game for 40 minutes. You go to the pit in a hostile environment against a good team, or you go to Logan against Utah State. We'll see. But if you're in position with 5 minutes left and it's like a 3-point game either way, or even a 5-point game, 6-point game either way, can you find a way to pull it out? And the Aztecs, by and large, have proven they are capable of doing that. They've got this veteran team that's been through it before, pulled out home games against Boise State and New Mexico, came back from 12 down in the final 5 or 6 minutes against Grand Canyon to take a 1-point lead with seconds remaining before losing on a foul call with 1 second left and then 2 free throws in the final 2 seconds. So, they have proven that they can get over the hump or be in position to win in those late game situations. They'll just find ways. And that's what I'm hoping for Saturday. Find a way to be in it with 5 minutes to play. And then, as Brian Dutcher would tell you, go steal a game. Can San Diego State steal a game in Logan against Utah State? But a huge game, huge opportunity. Looking forward to being in Logan, Utah on Saturday. Again, a very early start. 10 a.m. is the tip time in San Diego. And again, our pregame coverage is going to begin at 9 a.m. for San Diego State and Utah State. The first of 2 regular season meetings. The Aztecs and the Aggies will meet at Viejas Arena coming up later in February. But this one goes a long way, and the one, of course, at Viejas goes a long way. And I do know this. San Diego State, in its final year in the Mountain West, would love to win the regular season championship. They would love to do it. I'm sure Utah State would as well in their final year in the Mountain West. But no program in the history of this league has won more conference tournaments than San Diego State, whether it's regular season or conference tournaments in terms of championships for San Diego State. All right. On the other side, we will get to the wrap. So we'll do that coming up on the other side. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away. We'll do that this hour. We're going to hear from Nick Wright. What does Nick Wright say?
He's going to go over Giannis trade scenarios.
Okay. Trade possibilities for Giannis from Nick Wright. You'll hear that coming up at 4:30. We'll get to the wrap on the other side. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, back with you. San Diego Sports 760. We've got Aztec Hoops tickets to give away. We have San Diego Seals tickets to give away. We're giving away those Aztec tickets this hour, Tuesday night, back home against Wyoming. We'll give those away coming up again this hour. We're going to hear from Nick Wright coming up in about 15 minutes on landing spots, fits for Giannis with the trade deadline now just days away, right? February 5th. So within a week,
6th,
within a week. So we're just days away from the NBA trade deadline. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
It's Saturday morning, a must-win game for the Aztecs.
Just talked about this, but to put a bow on it, it's absolutely not. Now, it would go a long way to win it, and you certainly don't want to get blown out, which they would never want to get blown out in any game, no matter who they play. So, no, it's not a must-win game. It would be a love-to-win game, a resume-boosting game, an awesome opportunity to take advantage of game, but not a must-win game for the Aztecs in Utah State. Again, twice against Utah State this year, one home, one road. You want to get one of them. Honestly, all things being equal, if you could choose winning one game, you'd want to win it on the road because that's a quad one win and would bolster your resume, even if you lost at home to Utah State, in my opinion. So, no, not a must-win game, an important game. Absolutely. You can give yourself some wiggle room, a little bit of margin if you win it, but I wouldn't call it a must-win game for San Diego State coming up on Saturday morning. Next question.
Who's your pick to win the Farmers Insurance Open?
Glad you asked. So it's underway at Torrey during this gorgeous weekend. And at last check, let me look at the leaderboard right now. Justin Rose, listen to this, is 10 under par at Torrey. Perfect conditions, obviously. A couple of other golfers, 9 and 8 under par. Just looking at the leaderboard right now to see if there's anyone that raises an eyebrow for me. And there isn't. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Justin Rose is a terrific golfer. 10 under is a pretty good day. He's fully capable of winning. He's won a major. He won at Marion. I'll go with the front runner after one day. 10 under at Torrey is ridiculous. I'll go with the front runner, Justin Rose, who leads after 18 holes at Torrey Pines. Next question.
I'll take the field.
You'll take the other 143 golfers?
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't know any of their names.
Yeah, I like that.
Will you watch any part of the Pro Bowl?
No. I mean, it's this weekend, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So the Pro Bowl games are Tuesday, February 3rd. And will feature a week of skills challenges and a non-contact flag football game between the AFC and the NFC. No, I can't, Brent. I just can't do it. Like 6:30 Eastern on ESPN, the main flag football game at 8 Eastern at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. The event features games, a series of skills competitions. Notable roster additions include Shedeur Sanders of the Browns, according to AI. Just stop.
You don't want to watch Shedeur play dodgeball?
No. I mean, I'm not even sure why we're doing this. Are they really doing this for the TV audience? Like, is this such a big win financially or such a big win for football fans that it's just a gotta have it? You got rid of the game and you turned it into this. Why not just have, like, on paper, a Pro Bowl team or all-pro team and be done with it?
You know, they at least used to get a free trip to Hawaii.
Yeah, that was cool back then.
And now
I like
it's
that.
just like, nah.
I liked the game being in Hawaii back in the day because it was just cool. It's Hawaii. You're watching this game. But now it's, I don't even know what it is. I don't love where the NBA All-Star game is with like the 3 teams and the world.
Dude,
and
but
the
the
US.
NBA All-Star game is still awesome compared to the Pro Bowl.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't compare the two. Like, I just clicked on schedule at Pro Bowl and it's overly confusing. It's overly confusing. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to watch it. And I think one day there'll be a day, Brent, it'll be gone. I just don't think they need it. I think they prefer to have something else. I don't think we're going to have it.
Well, I think another year of sending quarterbacks that have 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions there to represent the league. I think a few more years of that, they'll have to get rid of it.
Craziness. All right, next question.
Where's a good landing spot for Giannis?
Well, I mean, right now at ESPN, we're going to hear from Nick Wright coming up in 10 minutes or less. I mean, right now at ESPN, the lead story is about the Warriors' desire to land Giannis. But like we talked about earlier when we talked about WFAN, a sports talk host went on the air today, was like, the Yankees should trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. Well, would the Padres do that? It's like the Warriors might want Giannis. Does Giannis want the Warriors? That is a really good question. So you've got the Jimmy Butler injury. You have Steph Curry, who's no kid, who's always hurt. And you have a Warriors team that's just kind of like middling along. Ceiling remains probably somewhat high. Floor is probably somewhat high as well. But when you compare them, like let's compare the Warriors, even with Giannis, to the best teams in the West. Are they competing? You have to ask yourself, are they competing with Oklahoma City, San Antonio, the Lakers, the Nuggets? Like, are they doing that? And I think the answer is probably no. Now, what happens if he lands with the Warriors? Like, what are the contract terms? How long is he going to be there? Because also, like, the window for Steph is closing. He's not a kid, man. He's always hurt. So, yeah, maybe Giannis is your future, but what is going to be around him? What's going to be around him if Giannis is going to be there for 2, 3, or 4 years? So, I mean, do I think that's intriguing and would draw headlines and tons of viewership and interest? Of course. Giannis and Steph Curry, that would be insane probably for the league. I don't think it's his best landing spot, though. Maybe like we've heard about the New York Knicks. Maybe the Knicks is a better landing spot. You can get out of the East a little easier than the West.
See,
what do you think?
Well, there's 2 things, though. The best landing spot for Giannis,
right,
and the best for what's, for the Bucks. Because I think they're 2 separate things. Because I think some of the deals that would be best for Milwaukee aren't necessarily going to be the best deals for where Giannis wants to end up. And like we'll hear Nick Wright hits it a little bit. Like you said, it's a matter of, does Giannis want to go to Golden State? Does Giannis want to go to New York? Some of these teams that might have some stuff to offer, it's a matter of if he wants to go there. So like I said, it's 2 sides of a coin. It's what's best for Giannis and then what's best for the Bucks.
Yeah, well, the really good point is the Bucks in general. Like, I'm thinking about it from a Giannis and Warriors perspective. Like, does Giannis want the Warriors? Do the Warriors want Giannis? Let's answer one part of that. The Warriors want Giannis. Does Giannis want the Warriors is another part of the conversation. But to your point, none of this gets done without the Bucks getting what they want. The Bucks aren't bending over backwards for Golden State, just like in our analogy from earlier. And hypothetical, it's not like the Padres are just going to trade Tatis on a whim because the Yankees want to make a big splash and because Fernando Tatis Jr. would be more of a star in New York. So it's going to be an interesting week. We're a week out. It is February 5th. So we're a week out from the deadline. I think we'll get a number of rumors and we'll get a lot of speculation over the next week. And I do think we'll be on the move. I think we'll have a new home probably between now and February 5th. Nick Wright with more on the situation involving Giannis and the Bucks. You'll hear from him on the other side. Plus, we're giving away Aztec basketball tickets for Tuesday night coming up later this hour. And we have San Diego Seals tickets to give away as well. Brian Dutcher show at 6 p.m. You can get your questions in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Taco Bell. The Aztecs defeated Colorado State last night, 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will begin early in the morning at 9 a.m. John will have the tip after 10 a.m. The Patriots had their first practice today leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant on the injury report since Wednesday after landing on his right shoulder while being tackled in the AFC Championship game. In another NFL note, the Eagles hired Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion today to be their new offensive coordinator. Tonight is the I almost called him Sean Dutcher again. Tonight is the Brian Dutcher Coach's Show. John sits down with the Aztecs head coach to look back at last night's win against Colorado State and preview Saturday's big game against Utah State. The Brian Dutcher Coach's Show is tonight at 6. Taco Bell's new Lux Value menu has 10 indulgences for $3 or less, from the opulent new mini taco salad to the decadent beefy potato loaded griller. That much Lux could have you expecting a maitre d' at the drive-thru at participating Taco Bells while supplies last. Price and participation vary. Tax extra.
All right, who are the Hall of Fame voters who did not vote for Bill Belichick? We now know 2 of them, and we'll discuss coming up in about 15 minutes. Aztec basketball tickets, we're giving those away this hour. San Diego State, Wyoming at Viejas next Tuesday night. That's less than a week from now. So the upcoming Tuesday, San Diego State, Wyoming, we'll give those away coming up this hour. But first, let's hear from Nick Wright. We're just talking about the future for Giannis, who could be on his way out of Milwaukee at some point in the next week. Set this up.
He does a really good job. You're going to see some quick cuts in this because this was like off of a reel on YouTube. So they cut out a lot of this thing. So it's going to like jump into there, just get to the meat of it. But he breaks down, there's a lot of confusion just based off of like what teams have to offer with draft picks. And some teams have draft picks to offer that aren't necessarily their draft picks. They belong to other teams and stuff like that I didn't know about. So there's a lot of scenarios involving the picks in here, and he pretty much breaks them all down.
I made 3 trades. The Knicks cannot come up with the best offer. It would have to be Giannis says, send me to the Knicks, and Milwaukee acquiesces. I feel very similar about Golden State. Golden State can't make the best offer. So the first one is Atlanta, because you stay in the East, you give up Kristaps, former number 1 pick, overall pick, Risa Shea. Atlanta has the worst of the Pelicans or Milwaukee's pick in 2026. Atlanta has that. They can send that back to Milwaukee. And Atlanta has Milwaukee's first round pick next year. So if you trade Giannis and you think you're going to tank, you'd like to have your own picks. Here's the Houston offer, because you would keep all your young guys except for Şengün. Van Vliet's out for the year, and those are 2, in my opinion, excellent picks you'd be sending. The Brooklyn first a year from now and the Phoenix first a year from now. And the feeling being Houston does have Kevin Durant, which means like there is something of a win now. And then the most interesting one, what if I could create a Spurs trade where you don't break up the young core? Vassell and Harrison Barnes plus these 5 first-round picks, none of which are Spurs picks. Because Spurs picks probably not going to be good. They have Wemby and Giannis, these young guards. The Bulls first rounder this year, Atlanta's first rounder a year from now, Boston's first rounder 2 years from now, Dallas is 5 years from now, and then, I mean, truly, the manna from heaven in the NBA, Kings unprotected first round picks. Those things have been in the top 10 my whole life. The Spurs keep everybody. If you wait for the summer, I wonder if OKC doesn't repeat. And if this graphic continues apace, if Jalen Williams becomes available. Because the last 2 years, the Oklahoma City Thunder with Jalen Williams are awesome. And without Jalen Williams are the greatest team in NBA history. And I can't figure that out, but they have a ton of picks. And if they fall short this year, it wouldn't work for them right now because he still's on a rookie salary. But his max deal kicks in this summer. Him, another piece, because they have so many pieces and picks, would be interesting.
That is a full breakdown. I mean, so he put some time into that. That's for sure.
Well, the one thing I thought was really interesting was the whole time I've kind of been like, well, I think in terms of what the Bucks would get the best return was the Spurs, because they had, those back-to-back years, not even including Wemby, of having top 2 picks, and they had picks to give and players. But I didn't know that those 5 first-round picks that they had, none of them are theirs. Because I think you brought it up and Sammy brought it up one other day about how good would those Spurs picks be? Because, they're like 3rd right now in the conference, and they got Wemby and they're winning. So you might not want to do that.
Not their picks.
Yeah, they're not their picks.
Which makes them way more valuable.
Yes.
Because to your point, if San Antonio is going to be good for a couple of years, you're picking in the 20s. If it's someone else's picks that San Antonio owns and they trade off, you could be getting some, high value lottery type pick out of that. I mean, I thought the interesting point he made was like, listen, if he ends up with the Knicks or the Warriors, it's almost like the Bucks got strong armed. It's like we had to trade him. He wanted to go there. This wasn't our top return, but we just acquiesced to the player. But I don't understand really why that would work for the Bucks. I guess in the NBA, again, the stars have power, and that's a possibility. I thought he made the really good point of like, well, where does it make the most sense for the Bucks? Now, it's got to make sense for the player too. You're not just going to ship him off to the worst team in the NBA. That's not going to work. But teams like Houston, San Antonio. I mean, Atlanta was mildly interesting because they're just never relevant. I can't see him wanting to.
Atlanta's the one that
kind
is
of
like out of all the scenarios. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. I can see any of the scenarios happening besides the Hawks.
Here's the thing I want to know. Like we always talk about in baseball, is there going to be like a mystery team? Is there, because in baseball, there's always that John Heyman's going to report on the 3rd team, the mystery team. Is there like a Philadelphia that nobody's been talking about? Is there an Indiana? Because next year they've got Halliburton. Is there someone out there that is outside the box that nobody's talking about that's going to emerge over the next 6 or 7 days?
The Bucks won't trade him to anyone.
No, I know they won't. It's a good point.
Especially with him, he doesn't like Halliburton and his dad to start with.
Yeah, good point. That's not happening.
That would be a punishment for them to trade him.
Bad example. That's a really good point. But just so much intrigue around this Giannis situation that's playing out. Honestly, I'm curious, like from your perspective, again, grew up in Wisconsin, Bucks fan. Are you cool with him moving on? The reason I'd be cool with it is he won. Like he fulfilled his obligation. He re-signed a contract and won a championship. You can't ask for more than that out of a player.
I'm cool with it because, for lots of reasons. One, he won the championship. 2, he already resigned once. So if he really did hate Milwaukee, like all the pundits like to say that he does, he would have left a long time ago. He wouldn't have stayed, and he was very vocal about how much he liked it there. And it would be one thing if he just had this massive falling out with the organization to where it's just he was bad mouthing them, and then he started bad mouthing the city and the fans, which happens sometimes. But he's not doing any of that. The most he's doing is he's calling out the team because they're not playing well, and he's calling out the organization because in his mind they're not doing enough to get him pieces that he can win. And I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, if it'd be one thing if it just turned into this big, disgruntled worker thing to where he just starts talking mad-ish about the city and the team, but he's not. He's been the whole time is look, I'm not going to flat out ask for a trade, but if you want to trade me and shop me now, I'm not going to possibly turn it down.
Is there any world where he stays?
No. Because they don't.
But doesn't that mean then the Bucks may have to make a trade that they don't want to make based on the return that's being offered?
Well, see, here's the thing though. They got so much stuff that's being offered that
they'll have at least.
It's not like they only have like one option A or option B. It's like you have like that's option A through like F right now, and it gets bigger every day. So they're in a position that they can be. Greedy's not the right word, but they can wait until they get what they think they deserve. And I think they also saw how, the Mavericks got raked through the coals over pretty much giving Luka away for nothing. And I don't think they want to have to listen to that for the next 5 years about how, remember, our multiple time MVP that won us a championship and we just gave him away for nothing. So I don't think they don't want to be the new Mavericks and just give away a generational talent for nothing and get nothing in return.
You do also wonder, like, if this is the end of the Steph Curry, Steve Kerr Warriors, which it very well is trending towards, if it's not this year, within the next year or 2 or 3, we mentioned this 15 minutes ago. Can you even reach, what is your ceiling if you added Giannis to this team right now? 37-year-old Steph Curry without Jimmy Butler.
The interesting thing about that is, for years, what the Bucks have been trying to do is, because Giannis is practically unguardable down in the post.
Yep.
The only way you can stop him is to do what they call the Bulls started doing it like a few years ago, the playoffs, is the wall defense of just packing the lane so he can't drive and do his spin moves and all that other stuff. The Bucks for years of their whole game plan is, we're going to surround him with 3-point shooters. So when he goes down in the post, he can just kick it out and we'll just shoot 3. So they have to pick their poison. Either we're going to kill him from the outside or Giannis is going to do it on the inside. Yep. Can you imagine?
Yes, Steph and Giannis. Great point.
There's no more automatic 3-point shooter in NBA history, not Steph. Even just in the league today, than Steph.
And there's no better post presence in the league than Giannis.
It could be the most dangerous 2-man game in the league right now.
Can they stay healthy?
Yeah, also, that's another big
with
if.
An aging roster, Steph Curry's always going to miss time, and Giannis, who right now is on the injured list as well. All right, who failed to vote for Bill Belichick? We have some names that we'll share on the other side. Plus, we're giving away Aztec tickets coming up next Tuesday night, back home against Wyoming at Viejas Arena. Brian Dutcher will join us live. The Brian Dutcher Show at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch tonight, we'll read it live on air at 6 p.m. You can get that in right now, 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760. All right, stay with us. We're giving away Aztec tickets in 10 minutes for Tuesday night against Wyoming. It was an awesome atmosphere last night. Sellout crowd. Lamont Butler in the building. Aztecs win going away against Colorado State. Big one coming up this weekend at Utah State. Then back home on Tuesday night, taking on Wyoming at Viejas Arena. We'll give away those tickets coming up in 10 minutes.
No, word on the street, and by word on the street, I mean Fletch.
Yeah.
He said Lamont Butler had like a totally kick-ass jacket on last night.
Yeah,
Did
he
you
had like
see
an
it?
LB logo.
Oh, okay.
You didn't see it in any. So I'll send you what it looked
No,
like.
because when they showed him and they did the thing on TV,
Yeah.
I was trying to get caught up on highlights, so I kind of missed it. But Fletch kept talking about it like nonstop about how cool of a jacket was.
Yeah,
so.
he was in a cool. I've seen him, I think, wear it before, but yeah, it was cool. He looked the part, and I mean, Aztec fans were so thrilled to have him back in the building. First time back since playing here. You know, that Sweet 16 run they had 2 seasons ago. Yeah, back where he kind of belongs.
Well, it's that old adage of, he's never going to have to buy a drink in this town ever again in his life. And it's just
No, he is not.
You're never going to have to pay for a churro in this town ever, Lamont.
No, he is not. I agree. All right, so we'll give away those tickets in a few minutes. So here are the voters that have come out publicly to say they did not vote for Bill Belichick. There are now 2, and I don't know the pronunciations, but I'll do my best. I think Mike Chappell, Chappell. I think it's Chappelle. He's of Fox59.com. Huh? He's one of the 50? Mike Chappell of Fox59.com. Where is Fox 59?
Indianapolis.
Okay. In Indy.
Deflategate in
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Maybe understandable. And the other is, I don't know if I'm saying this right. VAHE. I'll say Vay Gregorian of the Kansas City Star. They have both disclosed they did not vote for Bill Belichick. Now listen to this. Chappelle voted for Robert Kraft. Gregorian of the Kansas City Star voted for neither. Okay, so they've disclosed that. I think it was Chappelle cited Spygate and Deflategate. Okay, reasonable. The explanation citing both. He wrote, "There's no erasing the stain of Spygate" from his bio. But that almost implies you wouldn't vote for him at all. When you say that, maybe you won't. Chappelle says also, "There's no doubt in my mind that Kraft and Belichick pulled votes from each other." Because remember, the voters, this 50-person panel could only vote for so many on the ballot. So with both the owner and the coach on the same ballot, if people needed to, at the end of their ballot, choose, they might have been choosing between Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick.
I wonder if it is going to boil down to being one of those things too, where, for example, that one year when they were debating whether they wanted to have Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher on the same Hall of Fame class because they didn't want to have 2 big name players at the same position.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of them were just like, look, do we really need to make 2026's Hall of Fame thing the Patriots Hall of Fame induction where we'll do Belichick and we'll do Kraft and hell, you guys will have Brady come. We'll just do all 3 of them at the same time.
Well, here's what's interesting, that in this disclosure, Chappelle expressed confidence that Belichick will make it next year, admitting that his failure to vote, quote unquote, in no way insinuates Belichick isn't Hall of Fame worthy. Yeah, it does. You didn't vote for him, so it kind of does insinuate that.
It kind of just seems like he's saying, well, I'm not going to vote for him next year, but a lot of the other people that didn't vote for him this year, they'll vote for him next year, so he'll get in, whether I keep not voting for him or not.
I'm reading. Yeah, it's interesting. So there's Chappelle wrote a lengthy editorial on not voting for him. So that's published at Fox 59. You know how many clicks that's getting? This Fox 59 website has a link to what he wrote. That's getting hundreds of thousands of clicks.
But this is what I wanted. I wanted, just give me reasons. There's no wrong answer. It's one of those things to where, if, like I said yesterday, if you just are mad about Deflategate or Spygate and all that stuff, then that's fine. Then just come out and say that instead of just being silent and then just letting everyone speculate whether or not you're, just being spiteful, or if you just have legitimate reasons for yourself and why you voted that way.
Yeah, I don't know what this. Okay, so we know this one person wrote the reasons as to why he didn't vote for him. I don't know about this Gregorian of the Kansas City Star. If he explained his decision, it looks like he did. He did explain it. I'm kind of looking at it on the fly. Listen, here's the thing with voting, and here's the thing with living. It's to each their own. I mean, that's kind of the point. This is what I said yesterday. If Belichick had to be in on the first ballot, then don't leave it up to voters. If he had to be in, if it's not even worthy of discussion, then why is he on the ballot? If it's such a foregone conclusion, why are voters determining it? They asked a panel of 50. The panel presumably did it without any ill will. I mean, they made a determination. They saw a list of eligible candidates. They made a determination who they thought was most worthy. For whatever reason, 11 of the 50, could be more, at least 11 of the 50, which, by the way, is a pretty good percentage. This isn't one guy. We're now not talking about 500 voters and one guy kept it from being unanimous. That's more egregious and extreme. 11 of 50 is 22% of the voters. At least 22% of the voters did not vote for Bill Belichick. It could be a much higher percentage. It could be up to 40 or 50% of the voters. So I guess my point is, it's not like just one person was out on a limb. You're talking about 11 to 20, 25 of the voters made the same determination, which is he wasn't worthy. So that's their decision. They're on the committee. They're on the panel. That's their right. At the end of the day, they made a decision. Now, I'm with you. I kind of like hearing why they made these decisions, like that it wasn't spiteful.
I still think the dude from India, there's a little bit of spite.
There has to be. There has to be.
But I understand, because your team was one of the teams that was, quote, directly affected by, the various New England gates, to where I can see why you want to be spiteful, opposed to some guy that writes for the, Seattle Chronicle or something. Or is well, what's your reason for being all pissed off?
See, this is interesting. Like Gregorian said, if it was a simple up-down vote for Belichick, he would have voted up. But because he could only vote, and I don't know if I have this right, I think he could only vote for 3. He voted for 3 on the senior committee that were coming off the ballot. It makes sense when you put it that way. He voted for 3 that would have been no longer eligible, where he knew Bill Belichick would remain eligible. So, I respect that. That's why these people, they're like, anyone that didn't vote needs to be called out and they need to be vilified and they should never vote again. But maybe there's an explanation.
Well, that's why I didn't have a problem with them saying that they should at least be called out, because if nobody was asking or calling them out, nobody would have came out and gave any of the reasons. And like I said, then we just have to sit here and speculate and just guess on why we think they did, instead of them just coming out and going, oh no, you don't have to speculate. This is why I did it.
I agree with that. All right, call right now. We've got 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs take on Wyoming next Tuesday night at Viejas Arena. Tickets, if available, at goaztecs.com. But caller 5, you're going. 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs face Wyoming Tuesday night at Viejas. 877-767-4760. Call right now. Caller 5, you're going. 877-767-4760. Back to what we started the show with, what WFAN had to say about the possibility of Fernando Tatis Jr. to the New York Yankees. You'll hear that coming up on the other side. Brian Dutcher show at 6. If you've got a question for Dutch, get it in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Last night, the Aztecs defeated Colorado State 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will start at 9 a.m. and John will have the tip after 10. You can hear more about last night's game and preview Saturday's game with the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show tonight at 6 o'clock. In NFL news, the Patriots held their first practice today leading up to Super Bowl 60, and anything related to Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited-time participant at practice after landing on his right shoulder being tackled in the AFC Championship game. In other NFL news and notes, the Eagles hired Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion today to be their new offensive coordinator. It's time to take care of you. Who better to help you than the top voices in well-being on Audible? Kickstart your well-being journey with your first audiobook free when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com/wellbeing.
All right, final hour here on San Diego Sports 760, or is it? Brian Dutcher Show. Coming up live at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, it's like the show never ends. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can get it in right now. I see a couple on our text line, 70470. Start it with the word team.
It's just funny because that's like the way old like horror movies used to end. It was like it'd go the end, and then they go, or is it?
Stay tuned for like Freddy Krueger 11 or Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen any of those in a while. Maybe when I was a kid, I saw some of
those
them.
Are my favorites.
They still making new ones?
No,
of that specific.
No.
Why? Why'd that end?
Because
that seemed like a home run.
Because they made like 8 or 9 of them. Well, they did compared to like Friday the 13th and Halloween. Like, there's not that many Nightmare on Elm Street. There's still like 8 or 9 of them.
Are people into that as much as they were, let's say, 40 years ago? Like horror thriller? Is that as popular of a genre?
Yeah.
Is it? What's like Saw 9?
No, the Saws have kind of gone out. The whole torture porn thing's kind of run its course.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, believe it or not.
I'm not a big Saw person either myself, but you know, like the Jordan Peele horror movies like Get Out and stuff like that, those are pretty popular, and you know, they're still making Evil Dead movies. So horror's still a good genre. It's just a lot of the old franchises from like we were a kid, you know, the Friday the 13th and stuff like that, they're done with them because Friday the 13th had a big legal lawsuit because the two guys that like came up with the idea were arguing over who really came up with the idea. So that put a hold on all Friday the 13th related things.
The last 2 horror movies I saw were Padres Cubs Game 3 and Padres Dodgers Game 5. Okay, in the postseason. So that's the most recent horror movie that
Aztecs Carolina playing game.
Right, exactly. Brian Dutcher will join us coming up at 6 p.m. We started today by loosely entertaining this take on WFAN in New York regarding Fernando Tatis Jr. Take a listen to this and we can collectively react.
Brian Cashman has to make a major splash. And the guy that I think the Yankees should trade for is Fernando Tatis Jr. I would trade Volpe. I would trade Heel. I would trade Dominguez and George Lombard Jr. Fernando Tatis is one of the most electric players in the sport. He could be your shortstop. I know he's found a home in right field. He could play right field for the Yankees. Now, hear me out. I like the idea of Judge at times moving to first base. I like the idea of Judge at times DHing. He's not getting any younger. And Judge has gotten hurt more times than you would like. And he's their most prized possession. They're nothing without him. So to keep him healthy, you DH him a little bit more. And Tatis, who's a terrific fielder, especially in the outfield, you could put him in right field. So if I'm Brian Cashman, I'm the Yankees, I would trade for Fernando Tatis.
All right. So what I heard a lot of there is why it makes sense for the Yankees. It's like saying, let me tell you why it makes sense to give me $1 million. I can pay off debt. I can buy a home. I can buy a car. I can invest in Jones's education. So right?
It's like when fans are like, okay, here's the trade scenario. We'll offer them our 5 worst players, and
Happens
they'll
all
give
the
us
time.
the best player in the league.
It's a little bit like the Giannis to the Warriors conversation. Like, man, this would really work out well for the Warriors. Has anyone considered the Bucks? Because right now he's Bucks property, and they're not in the business of like making other teams better. Same thing with the Padres. That's not their business. They're in the business of making their team better. But John, they traded Juan Soto. Fernando Tatis Jr. is controllable for a decade. You know,
I thought it was kind of hilarious how defensive he was about Judge in the field.
right?
It's like, look, Judge is an awesome hitter.
Yeah.
But he kind of sucks in the outfield. You know, remember the World Series
Yeah,
when he
yes,
dropped the ball
right,
like that? But he's out there like, oh, no, don't worry. We'll keep him out there. It's just like, why are you defending that? If the case is, okay, you can put Tatis, who is way better defensively than Judge, put him out in the outfield and just DH Judge. And no. Only for a couple games. We got to keep him out in the outfield. Why do you have to keep him in the outfield? Unless he wants to stay out there, and that's the only reason.
Well, okay, here's the thing. These conversations are always sound funny in baseball because of how local the sport is compared to football. Let me explain. Like if you were having this conversation about like, hey, the Giants should trade for Mahomes. Well, A, that's comical. You can't even have that conversation because I mean, it's not realistic. But then they're like, I love when people break down like Tatis's game. It's like you haven't even seen it. Like you could play him at short. No, you can't. He hasn't played there in 5 years. Oh, he could play right field. What do you mean he could? He's a Platinum Glove Award winner. Not could. He's a brilliant dynamite right fielder. It's like Yankees fans, and I understand it because I watch 160 something Padres games. I watch spring training. I watch postseason. There's not a lot of time in the day when you're hosting radio shows and living your life and watching the Padres for hundreds of hours a year to then go tune on, the Yankees Red Sox game every night. So I get it. You're very, localized in your perspective on baseball. But it's almost like do you even understand who Fernando Tatis Jr. is right now? What's going to happen, by the way, this will never happen, but let's go down the hypothetical where the Yankees trade for Fernando Tatis Jr. You know what's going to happen when he gets there? Yankee fans will be saying the same thing Padres fans have been saying, but to an nth degree. Why can't this guy hit for power? We didn't trade for him just for his glove, right? They're going to say the exact same things. Do I agree that any team trading for Fernando Tatis Jr. is a splash? Of course it is. But my point with Tatis is he needs to live up to like the player that he is capable of being, whether he plays for the Padres, the Dominican Winter League, or the New York Yankees. He's got to get back to being the player that we saw in 2020 and 2021. He's not getting traded. I don't even want to entertain it. He's under contract for 8, 9, 10 years. He's 27 years old. The Padres need him desperately to get back to the hitter that he's capable of being.
Whenever I hear teams talk about moving somebody and moving them position wise and putting them at first base, the first thing I ever think of, I always think of is that part Moneyball when they're like trying to get Hattenberg to play first. He's like, I've never played first before. And Brad Pitt's like, oh, it's really easy, and then the assistant coach is like, it's extremely difficult.
And you've heard me now for years, especially with Jim, when like all things are equal. If I'm choosing offense or defense, I'm taking offense in baseball. Specifically with the Padres, they play in a pitcher's park. Like the Padres field a good team on average. Like they're not a bunch of butchers in the field, right? Even their average fielders are not horrific fielders. I'm talking about Luis Ariz or Xander Bogaerts. They're average fielders. Then you have above average position players like Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, right? So they'll be fine defensively, but you want to be good offensively. So I'll trade a little bit of offense for a little bit of, giving up a little bit of defense is what I would say. What do you got?
From the text line 858, the greatest offseason pastime is idiots from New York talking about a Tatis trade.
They won't let it go. Like I haven't even mentioned this hour. I did at 2 p.m. He has a full no trade clause. I started the show by talking about Joe Musgrove's Camp 44, where the team gets together in the days leading up to FanFest, and it's been playing out over the last 48 hours during these lovely days in San Diego, including today where it's 75. They're literally frolicking at the beach. Fernando Tatis Jr. is out there in swim trunks, having the time of his life, like Vance Joseph was with the Broncos. And but he's waiving his no trade clause days before spring training to go play with the Yankees. No, he's not. He's not. It's not even being entertained. AJ Preller has put this to rest. AJ Preller says nothing, and he even said that we need Tatis to be Tatis. You know, he basically laid it to rest. He without laying it to rest because it is AJ Preller. So it's just kind of comical. I love when, like, sometimes the horse is dead. You've beaten the horse. The horse is dead. You can't keep going down this path. Yankees need to make a splash. Let me tell you about Fernando Tatis Jr. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. It would be like me saying the Padres need to make a move. Let me tell you about Aaron Judge. It doesn't work like that. Or, man, they could really use a pitcher and a hitter. Shohei Ohtani accomplishes both. Doesn't work like that. You know, it's just like, it's almost comical to discuss. But in New York, where the Yankees are year-round content, and when they haven't won a World Series since 2009, maybe they do need to make a splash. I just don't think that splash is going to be made by acquiring Fernando Tatis Jr.
You know, and it helps that they practically have unlimited money compared to most of the teams in the league too. So, you know, they can take a flyer like that and every year go out and make a big splash because they can afford to. You know, look at Soto. You know, they could afford to go out and make the trade for Soto and then just let him go the following year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, the whole idea of, well, you know, what about even the return? Like, we haven't even gotten really into that. So you're going to trade Fernando Tatis Jr. for a bunch of just like random, like
a bunch of guys that 3 years ago were top prospects
and no
now
longer
not so
are
much.
and have like 600 OPSs in the major leagues, but they're Yankee prospects. So trust me, they're good.
Dude, 3 years ago, Jason Dominguez was
a monster
like
prospect.
the man. He had like Billy Hamilton like levels of speed, and then he got hurt. And his speed went from A+ speed down to like B- to where like he's not even close to like the base stealing threat and just the speed threat that he was.
Yeah, I mean, again, is it really worth entertaining? No. Is it comical? Yes. I didn't think the take was like ridiculous. He wasn't yelling and screaming and like, how could you not do this, Brian Cashman? Like, this is so obvious. I mean, you can't. It's not obvious because Brian Cashman could call AJ Preller and AJ Preller could be like, contractually, we can't even trade him, let alone we're not going to trade him. But by the way, he has a contract which has been approved by the players union that grants him full no trade rights. No trade. And did you watch the video on Joe Musgrove's Instagram, Brian? He's having a great time out here. So he's not waiving his no trade clause over the next 48 hours. All right. On the other side, what Brian Dutcher had to say post-game about the Aztecs, who win again last night. They beat Colorado State 73-50. What does the Padres farm system have to say about, well, just where they are right now as an organization? ESPN ranking the farm systems in baseball. Where do the Padres rank? We'll get to Brent's back page as well. Then the Brian Dutcher show tonight at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch tonight, he'll join us live at 6 p.m. You can get it in right now. 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. Start your message with the word team. We're with you live right now on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we all remember that one teacher made a difference who believed in us, challenged us, or just made learning fun. Now's your chance to say thank you in a big way with iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who's gone above and beyond for their students to win $5,000 to stock their classroom with whatever they need. Today's Teacher of the Day, Devin Backley, who teaches at Kearney High. And we were told she always makes her classroom a safe and welcoming space for all students to learn and grow while having fun. Congrats, Devin. You're in the running to win $5,000 for your classroom. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. Mentioned earlier that we do the every hour chance to win $1,000. And we had a winner yesterday at 6 p.m. of the National Cash Contest for iHeartRadio. Somebody that was listening to 760 yesterday at 6 p.m. won $1,000 from iHeartRadio. That can be you as well. So listen for the keyword. One's coming up at 6 p.m. here on San Diego Sports 760. Brian Dutcher will join us live at 6 p.m. Every week, I'm always like, Dutch, it's a busy week. I appreciate you taking time. It's like every week keeps getting busier. They played last night at 7:30. They play Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific in Logan, Utah, which they need to get to. We're traveling tomorrow afternoon, go to Salt Lake, and then drive to Logan. They don't charter to Logan, so it'll be a long day tomorrow, and then the quick turnaround for Saturday's game, San Diego State and, again, Utah State, 10 a.m. Pacific pregame coverage at 9 a.m. I had a chance to catch up with Brian Dutcher postgame. Again, he'll join us live at 6 p.m. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can get it in right now, 70470. Start it with the word team, but here was a portion of my conversation last night after the Aztecs win over Colorado State.
Yeah, defense was great, but with that being said, we shot 54% for the game and 46% from three.
Yeah.
So, and took good care of the ball. 12 turnovers. I wanted 10 or under. We had 12. We forced 17. So statistically, we did a really good job. Out-rebounded them. And so proud of our effort. And this is a tough stretch for us, John.
Yeah.
This is the stretch of 3 out of 4 games on the road. You know you got to get the home game. There's extra pressure to win it because you know you're going to Utah State next. So this is a tough stretch for us. So we've answered the call thus far. Obviously, I would have liked to get that Grand Canyon game. It didn't happen. We battled back and got UNLV, came home and played well, and now we got to go to Utah State and play 10 a.m. San Diego time game. So
turnaround.
It's not easy. So we'll do what we have to do tomorrow without taxing their legs and get ready for a really good Utah State team on their home floor.
I think most people would have signed up for a 9-1 start in the conference, especially the way the non-conference played out. Home loss to Troy, the losses to Michigan and Arizona. So I think that if you asked a lot of Aztec fans, would they take where the Aztecs are? I think a lot of people would say yes. I'm just looking back at last year. Aztecs were 14-6 in the Mountain West. Now the league had 4 teams in the tournament. That's a good record. I mean, they could potentially go 14-6, this year in the league. That would be 5-5 to close, but they've got a hard schedule. I mean, you hope that they do better than that, because if they go 14-6, they're probably not in at-large conversation. So they'll need to be better than that down the stretch. But again, they're, I guess, better position than they were a year ago. I mean, what is it? It's late January. This time a year ago, you know what San Diego State was coming off of? An overtime win at Air Force on Wayne McKinney III's buzzer beater. That's what they were coming off. And compare that to like what they did last night, which is win going away against Colorado State. Actually, yesterday was what, January 28th? Last year on January 28th, the Aztecs came back from 21 down at home to beat San Jose State, 71-68. From 21 down at home to beat San Jose State, 71-68. So to the credit of the team last year, they won those games. They beat Air Force. They beat San Jose State. They beat Wyoming, but none of them were convincing wins. They were all close. This year's team has close wins, but they also have created some separation against those opponents. I'm talking about San Jose State, double-digit win, Air Force, 25-point home win, Colorado State last night, 23-point win. So there's similarities, but there's differences. Again, the Aztecs last year made the NCAA tournament, going 14-6 in the Mountain West. They won't do that in all likelihood this year, unless they win, of course, the Mountain West tournament, because, again, last year they beat Houston, and they beat, at the time, a top 25 Creighton team And this year that they didn't do that, unfortunately. But again, still so much to play for and well positioned in the Mountain West. And again, a chance to just cement themselves atop the league by winning on Saturday will not be easy. San Diego State, trust me, will be an underdog. I don't think they'll be a significant, prohibitive underdog, but I would assume by at least a few points in Logan against the Aggies, who are 17-3 overall, playing well, getting back up off the mat after losing a couple of games, including at home to UNLV, but they're looking more like themselves. So I haven't seen a line. I'm going to assume that San Diego State is something like 3 or 4 point underdogs in Logan. Let me look at Ken Palm. It usually follows Ken Palm. And Ken Palm, I am a member, by the way, Brent, currently at Ken Palm.
About time.
I'm a subscriber or whatever. Ken Palm has the Aztecs losing by 6 in Logan. So you might be looking at a 5 or 6 point spread. Ken Palm only gives the Aztecs, and I think is accurate, a 28% chance of winning. Again, not impossible. Like I always say, would you get on a plane if you had a 72% chance of landing? No, I wouldn't. Jim's like, yeah, absolutely.
Sure, if it's free.
Yeah, it's free. Right. Free airfare and free drinks and peanuts. But yeah, San Diego State, according to Ken Palm, is a 28% chance of winning in Logan on Saturday.
Now, how much of that percentage thing? Because like ESPN likes to do that a lot. Because we saw this a lot during the playoffs with like the Bears, where they would, they only had a 0.008% chance to win, and then they ended up winning and stuff like that. So how much of that, 28% chance of winning do you actually think is like valid?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I mean, I just,
because I feel like that's low.
It feels low, but then you remember that Utah State, like for example, Dutch at Utah State as the head coach, 2-6. Well, 2-6 is a winning percentage of 25%, and here you're being given to 28%. Think about some of these Aztec teams over the last few years. Some of the best teams in the history of the program under Brian Dutcher. I think it speaks more to the program at Utah State and how hard it is to win in Logan than anything else. So again, Ken Palm has Utah State winning 78-72, and we'll see if the Aztecs can find a way to be on the right side of that 28%, right? I mean, the odds suggest that Utah State will find a way at home. Dutch will tell us later that, to win there, you're stealing a game, essentially. So big game, big opportunity, huge challenge for the Aztecs coming up Saturday at 10 a.m. Again, if you've got a question from Brian Dutcher, he'll join us live in 30 minutes at 6 p.m. You can get it in right now, 70470. Start it with the word team. Again, 70470. You can start it with the word team. We've got Brent's back page coming up. Where does the Padres farm system rank in baseball? Spoiler, it's not pretty. We're here until 6, then the Brian Dutcher Show for 1 full hour beginning at 6 p.m. on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's new Biggies deal. The Aztecs defeated Colorado State last night, 73-50. The team's next game is Saturday morning at Utah State. Our pregame coverage begins bright and early at 9 a.m. and John will have the tip after 10 o'clock. The Patriots held their first practice today before Super Bowl 60. And anything related to quarterback Drake May's injured right throwing shoulder was kept out of view of reporters. May has been listed as a limited participant in practice since landing on his shoulder during the AFC Championship game. And in one final NFL note, the Eagles hired Packers quarterbacks coach Sean Mannion today to be their new offensive coordinator. Tonight at 6, it's the Brian Dutcher Coaches Show. John and the head coach sit down to look back at last night's win versus Colorado State and preview Saturday morning's huge game against Utah State. Choose one of Wendy's new Biggie deals at $4, $6, and $8. The new Biggie deals are bigger and bigger than ever. For a pretty Biggie deal, gotta be Wendy's. U.S. price and participation may vary.
That's kind of hilarious. That Wendy's read.
Some of these, it's just like, who's writing these?
Yeah, good. Jim. Someone like Jim is running those. That's my guess. You mentioned Super Bowl 60. I'll be honest, you and I talked about this maybe earlier in the week. I've been so hesitant to refer to the Super Bowl by a number because I'm like, I have no idea what it is. And 60 is easy. And you and I both agree, I think it's time to move on from Roman numerals.
Yes.
We're getting to big numbers. I get like an X and a V. When you start throwing in L's, I don't know what's happening.
Well, and do they even teach Roman numerals in schools anymore? You see all these stories about like, kids these days. Now I'm going to sound like old man yelling at clouds. No, but like they can't read a clock.
Right.
Because they're used to digital and Apple Watch, to where if they have to look at like an actual face of a clock with Roman numerals on it, they couldn't tell you what time it was for like $50. So yeah, I think it's time to ditch the Roman numerals. There's just too many of them anyways. I had to look up what the letters was to find out that we were at 60. So that's just how I know. If we're at like 64 or something, I'd probably forget and say the wrong thing, but 60 is easy to remember.
60 is easy, and I'm still confused by it because, again, like I'm not. How many people in their like middle age are like, oh yeah, I remember Roman numerals? Even how many kids, to your point, are like, oh yeah, Roman numerals. Now, again, can you look it up in 2 seconds? Can I type in on the internet what's LX, what's LXI? Or of course you can, but wouldn't it just be more simplistic? And correct me if I'm wrong, with 50, did they write out a 50?
I don't think so.
Maybe it was just an L.
Yeah, I think it was.
L is just weird to me. L. What's 100? M? What is 100 in Roman numerals? 100 in Roman numerals. It's a C. Makes no sense. Isn't it?
Yes,
which means 99 is IC.
Yeah, because it depends on where you put it. It's weird. I learned Roman. Well, one, they taught us in school, but like going back to Friday the 13th movies, they used Roman numerals a lot too. So I'd have to be like, oh, this is part 4 because the I is before the V, so that means stuff like that.
Actually, 99, dude, because it says IC is incorrect. It's X. Like, who would ever know this? How many Americans would we have to poll? What percent would get this right? If I asked 100 Americans, what does XCIX represent in Roman numerals? What percent of people would know that's 99? 1%? Seriously, how many people, if you saw that right now on a piece of paper, Brent, and I said, tell me what Roman numeral XCIX is, nobody would know that's 99. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure somebody would, but it's 90 plus 9 is XCIX, and that's 99, and that's coming in 39 years.
I think the NFL keeps them because when they do the Super Bowl logo, it looks cool. When they're, if they just put a 60 up there, it won't look as cool as the Roman numerals. I kind of get that part of it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the flip side of it, it could be worse. They could be UFC, to where it's just like we're so unoriginal that we're just gonna, This weekend, tune in for UFC 327.
Right.
You know, we haven't named a single one of them. It's all been 1 through 327.
Again, it's like, are we
At least they didn't go Roman numerals.
Yeah. Again, at the end of the day, is this going to impact Super Bowl ratings? No. I mean, nobody cares. I don't care, by the way, if it's the 59th Super Bowl or the 60th Super Bowl next Sunday. We're all going to be watching. It could be any number in the world. And even the matchup. I mean, I didn't need it to be Patriots Seahawks to watch. I certainly would be watching if it was Broncos and Rams.
I kind of figured they'd make a bigger deal out of it, just being since it's the 60th. You know, usually, you know, even numbers like that, like when you get to 50 or, you know, something like that, they would make a big deal out of it, opposed to, you know, nobody cares if it's the Super Bowl 57. But when they get to like 50 and 60, I thought they would have made more of a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Anyway, we have plenty of time to get you ready for the Super Bowl. We're here tomorrow. Jonathan Rifkin will be in for me. I'm traveling to Logan, Utah. And then next week, of course, we'll have you covered. Will Brinson and Greg Camarillo and Full Reaction. Everything you need to know. We'll get you ready for the Super Bowl coming up in Northern California a week from Sunday. Now, this comes as no surprise if you've been following the story about farm system rankings. I mean, we've hit on it every day this week. I'm like, oh, Kylie McDaniel put out his top 100 list. There's no Padres on the list. And then Kylie McDaniel put out his top 200 list. There's only 2 players from the Padres on the top 200. So today when he released the 30 farm system rankings and the Padres out of 30 were 30th, I was expecting them to be 30th based on what we saw in the first 2 days of the top 200 rankings.
Well, then, unless I missed one, the Padres were one of only 2 teams that didn't have a player in the top 100. The Astros were the only other team that didn't have a prospect in the top 100.
You know, it's funny you say that. I didn't even see who came in 29th in farm system rankings. Is it the Houston Astros?
I can't remember. I remember the Cubs were like 25th which didn't surprise me because they traded half of them away last year. But
so 29th is Houston and 30th is San Diego and 28th. You talk about a bad look. See, I'm not going to say this is a bad look for the Padres, and I've told you the reasons why over the course of the show. Here's a bad look. The Rockies being 28th. How can you repeatedly suck at the major league level, draft towards the top year in and year out now, and have among the worst systems in the sport? That, like, their top ranked prospect is 66th in baseball, yet they've lost 100 games, you know, in a number of the last handful of years. So that's the bad look. I honestly don't think being ranked last in baseball and farm system is an awful look for the Padres because they're winning at the major league level. Where it really looks bad is when you're losing at the major league level and you have a bad system. And by the way, I've seen the Padres have what has been deemed the best system in the sport. And what has that gotten us? There's no guarantee having prospects results in good teams on field. Now, there's a lot of correlations that would suggest that good systems ultimately produce good teams at the major league level, but there's no guarantee. I remember when we were talking about this, the hot talent lobby in 2017 and 2018, everyone told me, look at the Astros when they were ranked number 1, they later won a World Series. Look at the Cubs when they were ranked number 1, they won a World Series. Look at the Braves. They won a World Series. Look at the Padres. They didn't win a World Series. So just because the Houston Astros won some random World Series, and just because the Chicago Cubs broke the curse of the GOAT, doesn't mean the Padres are going to win because they have a really good farm system. So now they don't technically have a good farm system. Does that mean they can't win? Because they didn't win when they had a good farm system. So I'm not going to sit here and obsess over it. Now, does it impact their ability at the trade deadline? Does it impact their ability now to get a trade done? Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe it does. But you know, they've bolstered from their system. Mason Millers of the world come to mind. And honestly, I'm not going to be surprised when AJ Preller does it again. It's not going to be shocking to me when we get to the trade deadline and the Padres are 10 games over 500, hopefully, and they can add to their major league roster by, you know, delving into their system, because there's pieces in there. They might not be fully developed. They might not be on the cusp of reaching the major leagues, but each organization has prospects, including the San Diego Padres. And I'm sure they have enough to improve their major league roster at the trade deadline to some extent. I'm not saying they can go out and get Mason Miller this time around or Juan Soto like they did years ago at the trade deadline, but they can improve their team if they need to, would be my guess. That's my guess. All right. What do you got, Brent?
I was just going to say, it just came down now on ESPN. The Mets signed Craig Kimbrell and Austin Barnes to minor league deals.
I was going to say minor league deals. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, I guess, the time of the year that we're in because pitchers and catchers are reporting after the Super Bowl. So you're going to get these non-roster invites, these minor league deals, guys that make rosters that get guaranteed incomes. Padres had a signing earlier today, crafty lefty, that if he makes the team is going to earn $1 million, could earn as much as $2 million. Who was that? I forget the name now. Guy that's had some success, Marco Gonzalez. Nice, coming off elbow surgery, didn't pitch in 2025, made just 7 appearances in 2024. So I'm not counting on, I'm not counting on him in 2026. Maybe as a depth piece, he could help you in some capacity, whether it's as a starter or as a reliever. But who even knows if he makes the major league roster coming off elbow surgery? But again, these low risk deals. This is the time of year you see some of these low risk deals. Okay. On the other side, we're going to get to Brent's back page. Again, if you have a question for Brian Dutcher, you can get that in right now. He's going to join us coming up live at 6 p.m. Our text line, 70470. Start your message with the word team. Again, 70470. You can start it with the word team. We'll get your questions for Brian Dutcher live coming up at 6 p.m. Get those in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. We'll get to Brent's back page on the other side. Brian Dutcher for 1 full hour coming up at 6 p.m. This is San Diego Sports 760, and we're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, final time on 760. We do have Brian Dutcher joining us live in 13 minutes. If you've got a question for Brian Dutcher, 9th-year head coach of the Aztecs, you can get it in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. 70470. Start it with the word team. In between head coaching, obviously, last night, and meeting with the media this morning, and practice with the Aztecs at the Jam earlier today, and traveling tomorrow for Utah, and then preparing for Saturday morning. He'll join us live at 6 p.m.
You know, and they'll have a pizza night on one of those days. Doesn't he always have a pizza night? It seemed like.
They have a pizza night?
You don't remember that?
I thought there was like a Brady Hoke thing with football.
No, I thought Dutcher did a pizza night once too, because I thought
at home. Does he do a pizza night, or does he do it with the team?
With the team, I thought he did a pizza night.
They do
once.
pizza night as a team, dude.
Because he made
It's a
some.
busy year.
Because I thought he made some. He had some special pizza that he would
I
make.
kind of remember that.
Because I remember because
But I
like
thought that was for
one
him
of the
and
nights when he was
Jam.
on the show, he was talking about because like the pizza dinner, or whatever you want to call it, was like the following night or like later after the coaches show. I want to say.
We can ask.
I'll have to ask him because I remember
maybe
he
ask him off air. Be like, do you have
Yeah.
host pizza parties?
because I swear he told us once about this pizza that he made because it sounded really good and it was kind of a, I guess, unusual because for lack of a better term, kind of a pizza. It wasn't just like a straight up
I do
pepperoni.
remember that.
I'll ask him when he calls in.
I feel like unlike football is so structured week to week. It's like today's Tuesday. We do the same thing. Basketball's like, well, they might play on a Tuesday, and then the next week they might play on a Wednesday, so it kind of changes. And I just feel like in the season, you're just in the routine of the year. I don't know if there's time for pizza parties.
There's always time for pizza parties.
There is time for pizza parties. But anyway, Brian Dutcher is going to join us in 10 minutes. You can text us your questions, looking for health updates or what it's going to take to win at Utah State or the Aztecs tournament chances or how the Mountain West looks right now or the roster for next year. Anything you want to ask about, 70470, within reason, 70470. Start it with the word team. All right, Dutch in about 10 minutes. Right now, though, let's get to this.
All right, I only got two today.
Only got two.
We'll start with Krispy Kreme update. Krispy Kreme is bringing back its Chocomania donuts, but they're only for a limited time. And unlike my predecessor, that time didn't end like yesterday. And I'm doing the story today. You have until the end of the weekend because on February 1st, they will be pulling them off the menu. So you're only going to have a couple days here to get them. The lineup, this is a partnership that they had with Hershey's a while ago, but they're bringing them back. The lineup includes Hershey's chocolate original glazed, a chocolate cheesecake, a chocolate chip cookie dough, and a chocolate party donut. You can get them all in store or you can order them online. But like I said, they'll be available in stores, but only through February 1st. So, which I think that's.
I like how you put that because if Jim did this, is like, oh, you missed it, but last
Jim
week
would have done. He would have done it next Tuesday.
Yeah. Like, listen to this. It's only in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So
Okay.
yeah, so if you want to go get some Hershey's Krispy Kremes, get in there before the
I always
weekend's
forget.
over.
Are you a Krispy Kreme guy?
I'm not an anti Krispy Kreme guy.
Are you anti any of these chain donut coffee joints?
No, not
Are you
really.
more Dunkin' Donuts than
Yes,
Krispy
I'm,
Kreme?
yeah. If I have to,
But
pick
there's not
out,
that many in San Diego, correct?
No, dude. I remember Madison didn't get their first Dunkin' until like a year or two before I moved. It was like the
greatest
biggest thing ever. Like I would go there just to go get donuts. So yeah, I'm a Dunkin' guy.
In the Northeast, I guess it's more Boston. I think it's from that New England. In Boston,
That's why Affleck does the commercials for it.
It's every street corner. All right, what else do you have on the backpack?
McDonald's has a new sauce that they're rolling out after successful trials in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada.
Okay.
They have rolled out its new hot honey sauce and a hot honey menu. I don't know if you like hot honey. I like if I go to like Wingstop or something, that's one of the wings I get.
I like hot honey.
I like the hot honey, like rub or whatever you want to call it. The center of the menu is the hot honey sauce, which is made with red bell peppers, paprika, vinegar, and honey for a slightly sweet, slightly spicy tang. It's going to be included on 4 new menu items: the hot honey sausage egg biscuit,
Okay.
the hot honey snack wrap, the hot honey McCrispy chicken sandwich, and the bacon hot honey McCrispy chicken sandwich. So the sauce will be available all day long. Obviously, you can't get the breakfast sandwich during the afternoon because they tried that and they quit for some reason. So you'll be able to get the sauce, though. It's just like in the ranch, you can just get it like a little container, whatever you want to call it, like you would with your chicken nugget dipping sauces and stuff like that. So I'm going to actually try that out this weekend.
Is this like limited, did you say, or is this like new?
It's new. I don't know. I assume if it's a big hit, they'll keep it.
Just keep it, yeah.
They haven't said anything about it just being a limited time. I think some of the menu items might be a limited time, but it sounds like the sauce is going to stick around unless it's just super not popular.
Okay. All right. Well, check that. And you said it's available now?
Yes.
Okay. Available now. Check it. Hot honey. Yeah, that sounds good to me, honestly.
I like hot honey. And I usually, if I go to McDonald's and get nuggets, I do like hot mustard.
I can see that.
I don't know why most people usually go with like honey mustard or like ranch.
I do like a good honey mustard.
I like both of them. But
Ranch on nuggets?
Yeah. Ranch
Okay.
on all chicken
Okay.
products you can go with.
You know what I like ranch on? And Kristen's a huge believer in it. I think it's
You're
pretty
going to say
common.
pizza.
Yeah, you don't like that?
No.
Really?
I can't do non-tomato sauce stuff on pizza. Except for
No,
like
not
cheese.
on pizza, like as a dip?
Yeah, no, I can do that.
What about on the crust?
No.
You're an interesting one.
Yeah,
then again,
I can't do that.
Then again, so am I. So, okay. So I'm a ranch guy by trade. And here's the other thing.
I like ranch, just not on everything.
And also, though, but back to the chicken nugget conversation, it's almost like, do you need to reinvent the wheel? Just go like barbecue. But I mean, barbecue's the play, isn't it?
It depends.
What percent of people eating chicken nuggets from a fast food joint use barbecue? I'd say 80%.
I'd say it's less than that. I think
Is it 50 though?
I think it's ranch now.
Really? And you're a ranch believer with nuggets?
Yes.
Wow. Where have I been? This is what happens when you don't eat meat. I've been out of the loop. I didn't realize that everyone's having a ranch with their chicken nuggets. I thought everyone was having barbecue sauce with their chicken nuggets. Brent's looking that up. But barbecue has got to be the number one dipping option in fast food. Now, I like a good honey mustard in general, but I mean, barbecue, come on, man. Tried and true.
Barbecue depends on where it's from. Because like
some are tangier,
some places
sweeter.
I don't like their barbecue. Some
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I like the. I guess the tanger. I like the sweeter barbecue sauces.
that-
I like
yeah.
the tangier ones. You
Yeah.
like Arby's, like the Arby's sauce or the Arby's barbecue sauce. I like that. I like Chick-fil-A's barbecue sauce. If I go to Chick-fil-A, I get barbecue sauce on my chicken sandwich. But like Wendy's, I'm not real big on their barbecue sauce. Same with McDonald's. That's why I go with the hot mustard or ranch.
You know what I despise? Blue cheese.
Oh, never had it.
Never?
No, it's mold.
It literally is.
And yes, I know mushrooms are mold too. Save it, but yeah, or
I
they're
can't.
fungus. But yeah,
I can't do blue cheese.
no. My sister was a big blue cheese person, and
Listen,
Yeah.
I love a good ranch, but again, I'm going barbecue over ranch by and large. Like sometimes you got to make tough decisions. I don't even eat meat. I so rarely use barbecue sauce or ranch in any capacity.
just eat the breading and dip it in sauce.
Exactly. All right. Brian Dutcher show on the other side. If you've got a question for Dutch, you can get it in right now. 70470. Start it with the word team. 7047. What am I saying? 70470. Started with the word team. If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. Brian Dutcher joins us on the other side as San Diego State prepares for a showdown in Logan, Utah against Utah State. For Sammy and Brent, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760.